In addition to these recoveries, the SIU prevented a further 2.32 billion in potential state losses and secured cash to be recovered from the acknowledgement of debt and admission of liability agreements to the value of 1.6 billion. In our pursuit to rectify setting aside irregular administrative decisions, the SIU successfully set aside contracts and administrative action worth over 2.13 billion through the Special Tribunal and the High Court of South Africa.
A former RAF employee has been sentenced to 12 years imprisonment for corruption in a Durban court. During her time as a claims and legal officer with the fund, Nobuhle Magwaza demanded payment from claimants to fast-track the processing of a claim.
Magwaza demanded a gratification of 500,000. She gave an instruction that 50,000 should be paid upfront and 450,000 can be paid later after the claim has been finalized. The matter was reported to the Hawks members from Durban Serious Corruption Investigation, who opened the case of corruption, and they conducted an undercover operation where Magwaza was given money, 50,000, and she was arrested immediately after taking cash and was charged for corruption.
And the UN's Human Rights Office says it is concerned about reports that most of the 22 people killed in an Israeli airstrike in northern Lebanon yesterday were women and children. The comments come as Israeli forces continue strikes in both southern Lebanon and Gaza. More from the BBC's Mike Thompson.
The UN's human rights spokesman, Jeremy Lawrence, said Monday's Israeli strike on the Christian-majority village of Aitu in northern Lebanon raises real concerns regarding international humanitarian law. He's called for an investigation into the incident. Israel says it's carried out more than 200 strikes on Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon over the past 24 hours. Israeli troops have also been continuing operations against Hamas in the Jabalia area of northern Gaza. The UN has warned that apparent Israeli efforts to cut the region off from the rest of Gaza are severely impacting food supplies there.
The top story this hour, the NPA in the Eastern Cape has welcomed the decision by the accused in the Lusikisiki mass shooting to abandon his bail application. For SAFM News, Gemudupi Makhalemeli.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Bafana ready for Congo pressure and rugby bosses oppose equity deal. More details at 3:30.
Muvhango returns for an explosive new season on SABC2. A renaissance of new beginnings, intrigue and drama with old enemies and new characters. Catch the rebirth season of Muvhango every Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. on SABC2 or stream it on SABC Plus. Muvhango, ukovela panda. SABC2.
This summer, we have extra large offers on Ford Ranger XL, XLT and Wildtrak from only 481,900 for a Ranger XL single cab 4x2. It's the extra large Ranger offer from only 481,900. Visit your nearest participating Ford dealer. Optional service plan included. While stocks last. T&Cs apply.
Bayern München are not just about singing their club anthem, Star of the South. They want to maintain their unbeaten run while their visitors, VfB Stuttgart, plan to live up to their slogan, fearless and loyal. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch the nail-biting clash between Bayern München and VfB Stuttgart this Saturday, 19 October at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
And a warm welcome to you. Certainly great that you're a part of it. For the next 3 hours, we talk about the issues that clearly impacts on the national psyche, and therefore, what we talk about as the National Pulse. So what for you? What's moving the National Pulse today? As always, you have your own opinions. I have mine. Love to see how that plays out. 086 000 2032 to call in. You can WhatsApp in voice note or text form 0614 104 107. As always, you can also tag us on social media on Twitter or the X platform, as well as on SFM Radio on Facebook. Just tag us and tell us where you are. Always love to know where you're listening in from, and you can do that even on WhatsApp. In terms of wherever you may be, even with a picture of where with the dial locked onto SFM. Great if you do that. By the way, I spoke about before I went to the One Young World Conference in Canada. I spoke about me traveling with a flag, right? Just even a little bit of a lapel badge or something on my bag that indicates I'm South African. And of course I did that again this time round. And just three things that I just will reflect on. One is there was a woman in Montreal who came straight up to me because she saw the South African flag on my suit, on the lapel badge. And then there were two other people, one in the London Underground when I got to London, and then another person in London as I was about to leave. And in all three cases, these three people and myself now, the connection with all things South Africa is just very special. So I'm just saying that's what I did. And again, it's a way of bringing you together. Now, have you done that on your travels? And if not, of course, my flag identified me, but even if you didn't have a flag and you were then identified as, from South Africa and you identified somebody else, how did you feel about it when you found that actually in the middle of somewhere, I don't know, in the middle of Timbuktu, in the middle of Mongolia, you find that you are two people who are from the same country? And how did you feel about it? I certainly find it always works for me. You feel pretty good about that. Okay, well, in many ways, this is a necessary segue into what we talk about next, which is issues around South Africa's Department of Home Affairs. And that's the first story we'll touch on. Lerato Ngobeni held a series of oversight visits last week. Remember, she's the Action SA MP. And in terms of the oversight, it's a keen focus with the Department of Home Affairs. Now, she has some strong views around many issues, including, and I'm quoting, "We are not tracking undocumented foreign nationals in our country." So what did she actually find out in her oversight visits? Well, let's find out from her. Lerato Ngobeni, Action SA MP on the line. Thank you for joining us. You are indeed connected to the National Pulse.
Ashraf and your listeners, thank you so much for the platform, and thank you for really just touching on these issues, because I can tell you, just before we start the conversation, it's quite disheartening. You started the conversation so well, and it's actually how we should feel about our country anyway.
Okay, well, let's talk about the frightening part. And yeah, I'm quoting you. We are not tracking undocumented foreign nationals in our country. Home Affairs has no idea as to who is here or who is not. That's your statement based upon your observance of this last week alone. Is that correct?
No, it's absolutely correct. And it's not my words. You can't make this stuff up. We were on oversight with the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs. And it was clear to us. You go to Home Affairs. We were at the refugee center. We were at the processing center. There's just a lot of mayhem going on. There's illegality just surrounding the entire precinct of Home Affairs. And the officials there were able to share with us and say, look, there are people who come into the country. They come through the port, but there are many people who come through the country who don't come through the immigration, who don't come through the border system, who don't come through the port. We have no idea of tracking where they are. And so once they're able to cross the border, for example, and be able to get into the country, nobody knows where they go. They just literally disappear into the ether. Those are not my words. That's what we discovered while we were on our oversight last week.
And in discovering it or in uncovering it, were you surprised at that, or did you expect that? And then this confirmed what you expected?
To think of something and conjure it up and then to experience it is quite something different. It is horrific. It's a horror story. And the reason why we're speaking about it and continuing to speak about it is to say Border Management Authority needs more resources to be able to do what they need to do. They need to have more boots on the ground. We don't have enough boots on the ground. The BMA, the Border Management Authority, is a new baby in the system. And so, they've done a lot, and we commend them. The leadership, I met them, and the leadership seems to be a very strong leadership and capable leadership. but they do need resources to be able to do what they need to do. And so, for us to discover this and to see it in real life, to see the warm bodies, the people, sitting on the benches, trying to get documentation, the system being slow, the backlogs. I mean, I know that they're trying to get the backlogs squared away, by the end of the month, and that's what the officials were telling us. But I can tell you that it's going to take a whole lot more for us to get this issue squared up. We need law enforcement to be able to do their work. There just needs to be concentration of effort with regards to us being able to make sure that we can have documented individuals in the system.
And let's go back. I mean, I know, in the run-up to the election, different political parties, including your party, had, different positions regarding dealing with foreign nationals. In terms of your oversight, were you looking at the position of foreign nationals per se, or foreign nationals that are undocumented? There is a big difference between the two, right?
No, absolutely. And I think, we shouldn't use semantics to remove the sting out of issues. When people are here undocumented, they're illegal. You can't be in a country. You have not come through the system. You have not been processed. You don't know where you're going, where you are headed. One of the horrific things that we were being told by the officials is that, say for example, Botswana. And I use this example in my speech yesterday. The example of Botswana, where somebody commits a crime in Botswana, like murder, and there's a death penalty charge in Botswana, but they land up here. The authorities in Botswana are looking for that. We can't deport that person because our own ethos and constitution has not accepted the death penalty as a form of punishment. So we don't deport those people, those types of people. So we absorb them into our own system, and you can't prosecute them because the murder was not committed here. And so, I don't know if people remember the SAHCR, the Human Rights Commission protesters. They've been there, some of them 5 years. They were telling us that they've been there for the longest time at Lindela, literally just lost in the ether. And they don't want to leave because they want to go, some of them, to particular places. I mean, the level of choices that we are affording people who have come into this country illegally. I mean, this is what we need to talk about. It's the lawlessness, it's the lack of rule of law, and the enforcement of the rule of law. Mm-hmm. You've got NGOs who are hell-bent on trying to literally, what's the word I can use? When somebody's just trying to get you to really just feel bad about asking for what is right. And what is right, there is no country in the world. And you just spoke about how you've been on your travels in the UK. I'm definitely sure you're holding that passport near and dear to yourself so that you are able to travel. Yeah. I mean, and in this country, we must make excuses for people who have done this. We understand the challenges that are across the continent, across the globe. We understand people who are here because they are fleeing from political persecution, from economic issues. I mean, I just came back from Zimbabwe in September. The country, that beautiful country, is empty. You are in Harare, in the city center. It's empty. The people are not there. They are everywhere else. You've got governments who are willing to govern over a fraction of their people and outsource their problems. Okay. South Africa. South Africa has got serious challenges, and we've got to be dealing with our own.
All right, let's then go back to our challenges. So I mean, two things. One, I think you've also put down a cost of deporting a undocumented foreign national as how much? What does it cost us?
Well, it's costing us. We've got several figures. The last figure that I received was 193 million rand per annum.
110 million per annum. Yeah.
193 million.
Okay, got that right.
Per annum.
In your
and the figure escalates, right? Because every day you also the attrition rate. You deport, they come back through other means. So you can process the same individual several times, and this is what the officials were telling us on the oversight. And the portfolio committee is going to be writing to Parliament. We asked very specific questions for the ministry to respond to us in terms of the plan, in terms of how they are going to capacitate the BMA to be able to do its work. How are we going to have bilaterals with other nations to make sure that they can receive their people back. There are some of them whose nations they don't want them back. It's a crisis, and it's got to be treated with the level of seriousness that it deserves.
So help us understand this, right? I think, up to now, of course, we've had an ANC-led government. That's not the case any longer. It's part of a whole multi-party agreement called the Government of National Unity, right? But even the ANC, their position has never been that they will accept illegal foreign nationals into our country. It has always been they'll accept foreign nationals, right? Documented, that is, right? How then in your investigations, right? What have you uncovered as to how have we got to a position now where undocumented foreign nationals in our country is the norm?
When once something starts out very small and then it escalates, the reality is that, for example, the CETA, the Technology Institute of the country, the ones who house the systems in terms of the technological abilities of Home Affairs to be able to do its work. It seems to be a bottleneck, and we've asked for the committee to write to the department to say, what are we doing in the efficiencies in the system with regards to the CETA? Because everybody on every single oversight in every department was complaining about the inefficiencies in the CETA. And so that is one thing that we are talking about in order to be able to check the State Information Technology Agency to make sure that, what are the bottlenecks in the system? Government printing works. We that institution, and I even said it in the remarks yesterday, that institution, the committee picked up that institution will follow in the footsteps of Home Affairs. Literally everything is outsourced. People are going to work every single day with nothing to do because work is being outsourced elsewhere.
All right, let me end with this. Let's end with this, right? One is, give us an idea based upon your oversight, how many undocumented foreign nationals do we have in the country? And then you can answer that in one go. You said this, and I'm quoting you. We want to champion the fact that South Africans must be capacitated and enabled to fill that gap when those people are removed from our communities. So perhaps you can answer that in one go. We've got about a minute to go. How many undocumented foreign nationals, and how do you get to position of South Africans being capacitated? Meaning, what is the plan?
We absolutely don't know how many undocumented foreign nationals we have in the country because we can't track them. We don't know where they are. So I absolutely don't have that figure. The only figures that we have are the numbers that come from different countries. For example, the largest migration group that is coming into the country is from Ethiopia, and so it's in the top 10 of countries that are coming into the country. And so what we need when we say we must capacitate South Africans, we must do exactly what you were saying at the beginning of the conversation, to say we must really make sure that South Africans can come back to the pride that they had about their own country and stop feeling like they don't have agency to fight for what is right, and to make sure that we can uphold the Bill of Rights, we can uphold human rights without necessarily giving up our state. And this is what has happened. We are going to wake up as South Africans one day and find ourselves homeless and not understanding what is happening. And the issues are many. We've got children in the US. They call them.
We're going to have to leave it. We're going to have to leave it at that. I'm afraid, Lerato and Ngobeni. But we certainly look forward to your presentation to the Portfolio Committee and see what comes out of that. I think whatever it is and whatever you may feel from a position of Ubuntu or allowing people in and documented and undocumented, and this is Africa. I think we all agree on one thing: the current status quo has got to be changed. It cannot be maintained. Lerato Ngobeni is an MP for Action SA. Right. What about you? That should certainly get you thinking, getting the national pulse racing. Let's get your thoughts on this.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, let's talk now about the position regarding the Sudan. It's an issue we've certainly covered often, and let's talk about it on the Global Watch feature. Sudan's North Darfur region, big problems. The army and the Rapid Support Forces, that's the RSF, have been locked in conflict now for nearly 18 months, so over a year and a half, right? Now, we understand that the medical charity MSF says that it has been forced to suspend work in the vast camp for displaced people, where famine has been confirmed, putting thousands of malnourished children in particular at risk. So let's speak then to the MSF emergency manager for the Sudan. I take it it's Michel Olivier Lacharite, right? I hope I pronounced all that correctly. Appreciate your time.
Everything is perfect. Good afternoon.
Well, everything's perfect with pronunciations, but not with the reality of what's happening in the Sudan region. What is the story, and how do we get to a situation of turning this around?
So MSF alert in regards to the situation in West Sudan, in Darfur, about the nutrition, specifically in the camp of Zamzam in the state of North Darfur, with having 1/3 of the population being malnourished and 10% being severely malnourished. But after the alert in January and the repeated alert in June and August, now we were forced to stop our activity 2 weeks ago because of supply issues and problems. So currently, the city of El Fasher is under siege, and it's not possible to access and to be capable to provide medical care for the children. So we were forced to stop the treatment of the malnourished. Only remain today our hospital of 80 beds in Zamzam camp.
And I mean, obviously the situation is dire. Tell me more about the impact that it's having on these malnourished children, because I mean, you talk about a famine, right? So it has clearly had an impact on the broader community.
Yes. So this camp has 450,000 people. So that's make roughly 90,000 children. So if we take 1/3 of them suffering from malnutrition, so we are talking about 30,000 children who don't have access to treatment, and if they don't have access to treatment, they might die in the coming days or week. The access to the camp and the city is not possible for humanitarian actors, and the access even for businessmen to bring food is very complicated. So today we are calling to lift the siege over the city, and the allies of the Rapid Support Forces and the SAF to work to lift this blockade on the city and the camp.
And I mean, what has sparked it off, as often sparks off these type of issues, is obviously strife, wars between different warring factions, right? What is this? What is the actual issue, and how do we resolve that?
So the question of what needs to be done is quite easy to answer. So the facilitation of the trucks coming from the Chad, coming from the eastern part, and the free access for the supply to reach the camp is absolutely needed. After the question of the how, I do believe that it's quite complicated to force the warring parties. So I think that their allies, so namely the Emirates, the Saudi, the Egyptian, should influence them to allow the humanitarian access. Because despite all the current statement, and everyone is okay for humanitarian access, everyone is okay to assist the civilian population, what we are witnessing today, and this is the case in El Fasher and Zamzam, is nothing is happening concretely, and we will need at the minimum 100 trucks every month to feed in a emergency situation the population. In regular situation, that would be 400 trucks, and in the past 3 months, only very few trucks has reached. Very few trucks of humanitarian assistance have reached the camp of Zamzam.
And what about the people affected? I mean, are you, when I say you yourself personally, or part of your team, do you actually have the opportunity, even in the midst of famine, to speak to people about what they think, what they feel, what are their fears, what are their hopes?
At the moment, they are the people to whom we talk, they see a state of total war. So the city of El Fasher is on the fire. Some of them escape, and we can see them in Chad. I think it's good to remind that in Sudan, 20% of the population has moved from its location. So 10 million of people are displaced and 2 million are refugees in the neighbor country. So some succeed to escape and some just want to stay where they are coming from. So after the question of how they describe this dire situation, they feel desperate, they feel abandoned, and they are expecting to have more. And I think that it's not a question of money. There is really a political blockage, and it's complicated to scale up and to have a massive humanitarian response with the current consideration.
Okay, lastly, there's this blockage, and there's this blockage by warring factors, and the fact that it's continuing for as long as you've just mentioned, right? Something clearly has to be done. So I'm not asking you to give a policy, but certainly what then should the role of the African Union, for example, as well as maybe regional powers, as well as the United Nations in trying to force through a resolution? Or do we just let this run its course?
I think that what needs to be done, so favor supply to every location, do not attacking medical structure and humanitarian actors. So the what to do is quite clear. Now, it's very difficult for us as humanitarian to say what should be done, because we don't know if it's better to try to influence them, what can be the constraints or the sanction to be put on them. But what we can see is we do believe that the people, the best place to influence them, on top of the UN and the African Union, is really the allies of the warring party. So these allies, they are the one who has the best traction on them. So this is the state actor to whom we ask to influence the two warring parties.
Okay, and that's where we leave it. Thank you for your time. Although the conversation is very ominous as opposed to sometimes good news, that's not the case today. We know that. Michel Willefeer Lasharita, the MSF Emergency Manager for the Sudan region. I appreciate you giving off your time. Let's get the news headlines. It's 3:30. Here's Madupi.
Mr. Garda, and good afternoon. In your headlines, the Automotive Business Council, NAMSA, says business sentiment in South Africa's auto industry has improved greatly since the formation of the GNU. The NPA in the Eastern Cape has welcomed the decision by the accused in the Lusikisiki mass shooting to abandon his bail application. And Human Rights Watch has called on the Rwandan government to carry out a comprehensive investigation into torture in the country's prisons. And those are your headlines. A full news update, 4 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the R21 northbound in Centurion has roadworks reported with traffic restrictions after the Olifantsfontein Road, so you're asked to expect delays. In Mpumalanga, the N4 has a truck crash reported with recovery east of Mombela, so you're asked to expect delays and diversions. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound, slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. On the N1 in Paarl, that Huguenot tunnel has been closed to high-sided vehicles. That's due to high winds, and Victoria Road outbound, slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, to me, our very own Minister of Sport, it's a big day in sport today, certainly for South Africa, right?
Absolutely. It's a big day. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Bafana captain Ronald Williams says that they are all set and ready to handle the pressure that comes with playing Congo-Brazzaville away from home in this AFCON qualifiers. Kickoff is at 6 p.m. and a win will guarantee South Africa qualification for the tournament next year. Meanwhile, with his team on the verge of possibly missing out on yet another Africa Cup of Nations qualification, wounded Congo national team head coach Isaac Ngata has sent a stern warning to Bafana ahead of the game. That 5-0 drubbing on Friday night has put them in a very difficult position, and failure to beat Bafana will see the Red Devils falling behind in the race for the top 2 spots of Group K. And Ngata is also talking about making some changes.
Oui, hier, effectivement, j'étais dans un état d'esprit très positif par rapport à l'équipe. Vous avez raison.
Yes, yesterday I was sure from what we prepared to produce in the ground, I was sure that our players were going to play very well. But I'm surprised today to see on the field that they changed the state of the mind. So that doesn't mean that in the second leg match things cannot change. We will prepare for that physically and mentally. We are going to change our players. I think that they can do good games at home. Yes, we know that South Africa is better than us in many points, but we knew that South Africa is a big team. We know that, but what we produce today is what we're expecting to do. But we're hoping that next week we're going to change all the mentalities and physically, and we're going to change the players.
Elsewhere, Germany head coach Julian Nagelsmann downplayed Dennis Undaff's injury after the forward missed yesterday's 1-0 Nations League win over Netherlands due to a muscle issue that he sustained in the warm-up. The 28-year-old had scored both Germany's goals in a 2-1 win over Bosnia on Friday, and his teammate Jamie Lowenling scored in his international debut to secure the win yesterday. Now, Germany have already booked a place in the Nations League quarterfinals and will conclude their group stage campaign by playing Bosnia and Hungary next month. Moving on to rugby, SA Rugby's proposed deal with American investment group Akili Sports Group looks set to collapse, with 7 of SARU's 14-member unions reportedly having signed a letter opposing the deal. Now, for a deal like this to go ahead, around 75% of the unions must vote in favor, which means that 10 unions must support it, and the deal would have seen SARU sell a 20% stake in its commercial arm to ASG and get a cash injection of 1.3 billion rand, which I think, Ashraf, they would definitely do with this money. 1.3 billion rand is a lot of money. However, obviously,
so what's the route? So they want to sell 20% of their commercial rights.
Yes.
To a company from the USA.
Yes.
For 20%, right? Which they'll give them how much in return?
They'll get around 1.3 billion rand. And from my understanding with regards to this company, it's called Akili Sports Group. It's basically the Akili family based in Seattle. They don't have any prior involvement in rugby. However, they're heavily involved in business, and they just now started to buy in sporting institutions. I know that the two sons, they now invested in Leeds United football. They're also involved in basketball also. And the idea was just to invest in a commercial rights corporation, from my understanding, especially a brand like Springboks. This was a great deal for them because then they would be able to be promoted commercially abroad, not only just in South Africa or in Africa. But from what I hear, the likes of the Lions, Blue Bulls, Sharks and Western Province are questioning that, one, this company has never been involved in rugby, so why would you want to partner with them? And number two, they question that for example, New Zealand, their brand is worth 2.4 billion rand. And they're saying if New Zealand's brand is around that amount, 1.3 is too little.
But if it's for 20%, then they're actually valuing it over 6 billion then.
Basically.
If that's the case. I mean, I'm just saying. But I mean, the bigger issue really for now, I don't know enough about it. The big issue really is now, from South Africa, there's, and I may be wrong, there's SA Rugby and there's SA Rugby Limited. I don't know whether there's a separate company, right? Meaning that SA Rugby as an institution belongs to South Africa. Can South Africa sell off 20% of South Africa?
I'm sure they can.
As opposed to a company. No, but a private company is different. I'm not even discussing the commercial merits. I'm saying,
I get you.
Are they allowed to? You get my point. Like, for example, the SABC. The SABC is not a company for gain. Right?
Yes.
Compared to, say, MultiChoice. MultiChoice can sell, and they probably are selling part of it to Canal Plus maybe down the line. SABC is not in that position. So we're not even discussing the merits of it.
Would you not say SARU has positioned itself in such a way that it's kind of like a private entity?
Well, that's what I don't know enough of. Okay. So I'm saying if there's a commercial arm called SA Rugby Limited. Maybe there is. Then we need to find out about that. Then the next question is it worth selling off? And are they selling off 20% of a stake, or are they selling off 20% of the revenue, like a commercial commission, for example? And the third part that you make the point is like, why can't they do this themselves? For example, if they really want to market the Springboks globally, can't they do it just with our own companies? We've got some fabulous companies here who can do so, I think, anyway. But we need to find out more.
We definitely will find out more with regards to that, actually, a little bit later on the sports show. But finally, in boxing, Kevin Two Guns Lerena says that he feels proud to be the first African fighter to hold the World Boxing Council Bridgerweight title, strategically positioned between the cruiserweight and heavyweight categories. Bridgerweight was introduced in 2020 as the 18th weight class by WBC President Jose. Now, Lerena campaigned in the cruiserweight, where he ruled with an iron fist as the IBO champ with 6 successful defenses before moving up to heavyweight. On that note, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Okay, we will talk then. Yeah.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said,
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed Dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Baye!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195, and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
After an impressive run in their first 5 matches of the 2024-25 season, collecting 18 points each, both La Rochelle and Bordeaux-Bègles are pumped up with high energy and eagerness to elevate their winning mentality to the highest level. Witness the collision of 2 giants, the top 14 rugby contest between La Rochelle and Union Bordeaux-Bègles on Sunday, 20 October at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, we're going to chat to the Deputy Minister of Defence, General Bantu Holomisa, shortly, I think, just in a few minutes' time. But your comment on any of the things we've spoken about so far. What about the conversation I had with the representative from Action SA around her oversight onto foreign nationals and the entire Department of Home Affairs? That's one. And then the position of Darfur and Sudan. And then the conversation I just had regarding the Springbok rugby team that myself and Tumi just had. Any thoughts on that? Let's get your opinions, by the way, on those issues. Zanele has an opinion in around the 100 days. Zanele, hi.
Hi, Ashraf. Ashraf, I congratulate all the department as they've marked their 100 days in office, especially under GNU. But it seems as if, as public, we are not taken into account because we're still experiencing that bullying behavior by some of their staff, of their employees, if we go to their offices. Last week, I went to Department of Home Affairs at Umgeni Road in Durban. So if I arrived there, I went to reprint the birth certificate. So I went to their information center, and they gave me a form. This form, I've got a side problem. So it is written in a smaller letter. So for me, it's easy to see the smaller letter if it is at the distance. But if it is in a short distance, so as I'm going to be writing, I've been looking at the paper. So it gives me difficulties to see those ways. So I started writing it. The problem began when you see this the square on the date, the date of birth. So I always know when it comes to it is 8 square where you should write
Okay, can I just push you very quickly? We're just running out of time. What's your point on my sincere apology? I just need to move on. What's the bottom line to this?
So what I've experienced there is that when I ask the person on an information desk to help me to fill the form because I've got a side problem.
Yes.
The lady has bullied me, asking me why I left my glasses at home because I knew that I'm coming to fill the form. I said no, I don't use glasses. And she said why I didn't wait to go to the doctor and get some glasses because I know that I've got a side problem.
I'll tell you what. I think we need to follow that story up. Quite honestly speaking, can I put you back to Keys and maybe we can speak to the relevant department that you actually went to, that Home Affairs department, and let's get their story. If you can give us some details, because I think we need to find out more about this. Because you're quite right. If you have bad eyesight, you have bad eyesight. How can you be punished for that? That really is the essence of the story. So can we do that, right, Zanele? Thank you. All right. Okay, I think we got that. Yeah, we need to find out about that. Okay, General Bantu Holomisa coming up next.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, to Ethiopia we go. The Deputy Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, General Bantu Holomisa, is in Ethiopia attending the Program of African Defense Ministers Conference. It's been going on all week, I understand. So let's find out exactly why is that conference important. What does South Africa hope to get out of it? General Bantu Holomisa with me. Of course, he's the Deputy Minister of Defense and Military Veterans. Appreciate your time, General Holomisa. You're now connected to the National Pulse.
Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon to you and to our listeners.
Thank you. Tell me, what's the why around this conference? What are you hoping to get out of it?
Well, in this conference, the main concern of the continent is the fact that the peace seems to be elusive, and everybody who is here is talking about the need to cooperate between the defense forces as well as between the countries. And also some members were saying the AU has to jack up their boots, making sure that the resolutions which have been taken to promote peace and security in the continent are implemented immediately. And it was also the other issues which were raised was that the countries must work closely to cooperate when it comes to crossing of borders to other areas.
Okay.
We are all okay.
Yeah. So in effect, it's a meeting of defense ministers trying to also resolve,
and as well as chiefs of defense forces.
I understand. How much clout does this grouping have? Because you made the point about a series of issues around defense on the continent. How much clout does this grouping have to effect political decisions that often get made?
Well, everyone who is here, I assume, in my case, I will be submitting a report to my minister who delegated me to be here, and I'm grateful to her for having done so, and then escalate another copy to the office of the president, because they normally sit in these forums, whether it's for security, like in Angola recently, where they reached a ceasefire in the eastern DRC. So therefore, we need to keep them informed and also give advice where it is necessary as ministers. So the bottom line is that all the leaders who are here, ministers and chiefs of the defense forces, will report back to their governments.
Okay, I understand. What then has come up so far in the conversations? I mean, I understand you made the point about regional defense and
the main concern, obviously, is still the Sudan conflict, as well as the western part of the continent, where there are military governments. So everyone is insisting that we need to sit around the table to find a solution.
And do they have ideas for a solution?
Yes, they have suggested solutions. But anyway, I still maintain that the concept of South Africa, where, for instance, if you still remember, we were part of the history of our country. Mm-hmm. Militarily speaking, there has never been any winner. There was no winner in the conflict in South Africa between black and white. South Africa won through sitting around the table. That concept is still the concept which every region must adopt. And also, when we talk about early warnings, that means we must share intelligence as neighboring countries and deal with these conflicts or in time, but not to suppress the reasons for those conflicts, but to examine them.
Did it also get discussed as to what has given rise to those military takeovers in certain parts of the continent, particularly in West Africa?
West Africa is related to more for those countries to extricate themselves from colonial bondages from France, by France. It's a straightforward case. Other areas, you will find that the people who were raising issues related, people who are elected, and then they start misusing state resources, looting state resources. The similar thing which we have experienced in the past 30 years, that of state capture. So corruption has been cited as one of those things, and also the outside influence, or rather the outside parties, so-called big developed countries, having an interest in the resources of the continent, and thereby using other rebel forces to fund those rebel forces in order to oust the existing government with an aim to loot those resources.
I see one of the points brought up is the alignment of African defense strategies. I mean, explain, what does that mean?
Well, it simply means that we are now under the AU, and the AU has got a security desk, peace and security, and you know the language there. That means you need to compare intelligence, compare notes, look at early signals, whether they are in place, and also to look at training, shared training strategies. And right now, as we speak, you will find that the wars of today are a little bit different from those of old. A few days ago, we saw how an individual triggered an equipment which killed people in Israel. That equipment, in the past, you would have come with tanks or bomb that area. But drones now can be operated by an individual. So we look into those. That is the technical side of things, technology. So if we are interested in protecting the continent and we speak with one language, then that language must be known by everybody through training. And also, if we talk about resources of the continent, simple convention, which we are all part of, the Biodiversity Convention, for instance. It simply says you cannot come from Europe and other areas and take the wildlife here or fauna and so on and so on. So we have to work together.
Okay, just maybe the last thought for now, right? So going forward in terms of the issue that you've discovered or uncovered, right? What therefore have you learned that you could, besides doing it for Africa, that you could also bring it back, not just for the entire continent, but to bring it back to South Africa?
Well, South Africa, there isn't much. We are already ahead. I mean, we are involved in peacekeeping in the continent. Right now, we were fortunate that we had a workshop or a conference by Mbeki Foundation, which has also taken a stand on promoting peace and came up with a plan and took resolutions which are going to be referred to all the governments, will be referred to United Nations Security Council as well as to the AU. So I think all what we need to do is to sell what helped us as South Africa to get out of the conflict whenever it rears its ugly head.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Appreciate you giving off your time, General Bantu Holomisa, the Deputy Minister of Defence and Military Veterans, but in today's case, representing South Africa in Ethiopia, attending the program of African Defence Ministers Conference. Now, back home, we will talk about something maybe just as important. We chat to Pieter Groenewald, the Minister of Correctional Services, around issues that have been uncovered in the cell of Thabo Bester after this.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
It's so interesting when you're talking about defense. One is, continental defense, and then you have national defense. And what about just defense as in just securing, prisons, right? So we have with us now Pieter Groenewald, the Minister of Correctional Services, Pieter Groenewald, about his department's assessment of the cell from which the Facebook rapist Thabo Bester escaped from. Now, I understand there's some security violations that have been uncovered. Let's find out more about it with Minister Pieter Groenewald. Appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon. Most welcome.
Thank you. Right, what have you uncovered?
Well, let me first say I had a comprehensive visit yesterday in the center, and they took me the whole route and explained everything, how, for instance, a vehicle entered the facility and the whole route, the body went through and everything. Yeah, what they explained to me and what was uncovered is that the security systems, for instance, their cameras, did not comply to all security standards. Firstly, it was, according of them, in terms of when the incident happened, someone has plugged out some or other cable out of the monitoring system in a sense that you could not see visually what is happening. So that is one thing. So it is also clear that there was collaboration with many officials, and specifically the supervisor for that specific night shift, and even cameras and the angles, which was what they had before the incident, was not adequate to cover all areas. And of course, they knew it. I visited the cell, and one thing that they uncovered, for instance, I mean, there was smoke, but it didn't show on the cameras. And some of the officials said they never saw any smoke. Now, it's impossible. If you visit the cell, there are gaps between the door and the floor. Big, well, if I say gaps, quite a lot of a big gap where smoke will come out. So it is not true that they couldn't see that. But also the entrance of the vehicle, and it was done very, can I say, in a way that it went to the workshop. They said that they are offloading a cabinet for the workshop where they do woodwork. So they planned very well how to do the whole issue. And I think they came forward and they admit the personnel and the proper control of their personnel and the officials was not adequate enough, as well as the security equipment, specifically when it comes to the video system for monitoring.
Now, all this has been uncovered in recent days, or has this been known for a long time, that we're simply talking about it now?
Well, it was always there, the inadequacy. But of course, after the incident, they did a thorough investigation, and that is what came out of the investigation of G4S and the BCC, the company that is actually the main contractor. So after the investigation, they actually found all these inadequacies, and it was that like all the time. So only after the incident, they have upgraded their security systems and the control of their personnel. So that is the way it was.
Okay, now just lastly, I mean, you obviously fairly new into this position now as the Minister of Correctional Services, but now knowing what you now know, right, what plans would you put in place going forward, or do you plan to, so that this sort of thing can never happen again? Because you also made the point there was massive collusion, and I would think that it's happened only because those who colluded knew they could get away with it.
Surely, you're quite right with that analysis, but in the end, they did not get away with it. What I learned from that, firstly, is the upgrading can serve as an example, not only for that correctional service or center, but for all our facilities, that we can learn from that report to see in our own facilities, because you all know that the Mangaung facility is a private operation or operational facility. So we can learn from them on those mistakes, because I am also, can I say, quite sure that some of our own facilities as correctional services are concerned, that we will have the same problem, and we can learn from that.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you acknowledge that we have to fix up some of the problems that currently exist. Appreciate your time, Minister Pieter Groenewald, the Minister of Correctional Services. Thanks for those insights regarding some of the findings from the Thabo Bester escape and all that went around him. So many different factors. Maybe just check it out, that whole story. In fact, we'll have it up as a podcast as well, this conversation and others, on sfm.co.za. It's 5 o'clock. It's the news. Here's Madupi.
Thank you very much, Uncle Ashraf. For the top stories this hour: improved business sentiment in the auto industry and continuing tributes for Mboweni. A very good afternoon. The Automotive Business Council, NAMSA, says business sentiment in South Africa's auto industry has improved greatly since the GNU's formation. The sector contributes around 5% to South Africa's GDP. NAMSA says the recent interest rate cut and the suspension of load shedding for several months have also boosted the industry. The council's Billy Tom was speaking during the SA Auto Week at the Cape Town International Convention Centre.
Yeah, I think since the formation of the government of national unity, the sentiments have changed very, very well. I mean, we've seen how the interest rates have now been lowered last month. We've seen how the inflation is right in the target range. But also the government of national unity, I mean, that has been well received. I mean, you've got 10 political parties working as one. And I think we're very optimistic as business. And also the collaboration we've had with government, it's bearing fruits. I mean, we've had 2 quarters of no load shedding. And I think we're doing a lot of work around the ports as well as around crime.
The NPA in the Eastern Cape has welcomed the decision by the accused in the Lusikisiki mass shooting to abandon his bail application. Sipho Myeketa appeared in court today facing 18 murder counts. The 45-year-old allegedly shot dead 18 people at the Ngobozana village over 2 weeks ago. His case has been postponed to the 26th of next month for further investigations. NPA provincial spokesperson Lupolo Jali.
He got a good advice from his attorney that applying for bail under these circumstances would be a waste of time. Because remember, he was out on bail, on parole. And again, when he was in custody, he once escaped from lawful custody. Someone with such a history, facing such a very serious case as this one, would not have been granted bail.
South African Navy Chief Mondelo Bese says strong relations with other naval armies in Africa are crucial in protecting their growth and prosperity. He was present at the opening ceremony of the Sea Power for Africa Symposium in Cape Town. It's expected to address key maritime security challenges such as piracy, illegal fishing, smuggling, and the sustainable use of ocean resources. Lobele elaborates.
The nations of the world that we export our products to and from, where we import their products, we must have trust and faith that nothing will happen to their ships and cargoes when they do business with Africa. Another challenge that we must overcome relates to issues such as illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing, where the fish resources of our continent are taken from us because we do not have the means to prevent it. Then, of course,
the Vice-Chancellor of UNISA, Professor Puleng Lenkabula, has joined in the outpouring of condolences after the passing of former Reserve Bank Governor and Finance Minister Tito Mboweni. Mboweni passed away on Saturday after a short illness at a Joburg hospital. He was 65. Lenkabula has hailed Mboweni as a transformative leader. Ntsigi Mtabela reports.
Mboweni, who is the first Minister of Labour of the new democratic government in 1994, is credited with initiating and championing several pieces of legislation that were pivotal in entrenching respect for the rights of workers as one of the central pillars of government. He was later to serve the country in the capacity of the 8th Governor of the South African Reserve Bank, a role in which he excelled for a decade and contributed to the stabilization of the rand and South Africa's macroeconomic policy. Nomtsikelelo Mtabela, SABC News, Johannesburg.
And Human Rights Watch has called on the Rwandan government to carry out a comprehensive investigation into torture in the country's prisons. It concluded that the practice is deeply entrenched. The organization found that prison officials had been allowed to torture detainees with impunity for years, and that the judges ignored the complaints from the victims. The top story at 4 o'clock, the Automotive Business Council, NAMSA, says business sentiment in South Africa's auto industry has improved greatly since the GNU's formation. For SAFM News,
in sports this hour, Libya lay blame for qualifier postponement on Nigeria, and Kafu joins a list of great SA boxers in holding credible world titles. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is queuing towards Crown Interchange. The N1 southbound in Fourways has a crash reported before the Winnie Mandela Drive exit. The N1 southbound in Fairland has a stationary truck reported after Malibongwe Drive exit. In Sandton, Grayston Drive eastbound queuing at Linden Street, and Sandton Drive westbound slow moving towards Winnie Mandela Drive. In KZN, Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving. That's through Springfield Park, and the N2 southbound has roadworks reported with traffic restrictions between Umgeni Road and Spaghetti Junction. In Mpumalanga on the N4, track crash recovery east of Mombela is causing some delays and diversions. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound slow moving towards Okavango Road exit. The M3 southbound is queuing towards Rhodes Drive. The M5 northbound slow moving through the N1 Kuburg interchange, and the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Oma G.
With misinformation and disinformation around us all the time, where can we turn to for news and information that is not fake? Radio, of course, your number one trusted source of reliable and truthful news and information. For over 3 decades, we have been a signatory to the BCCSA Broadcasting Code of Conduct, and we pride ourselves as a trusted source of information. Say no to false news and disinformation that circulates online. Radio, keeping it real and fighting fake since day one. A message from the National Association of Broadcasters.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So here's a quick thought, right, that I want to make a point on. I spoke about being in London, remember? And last week, Sunday, I was at Hyde Park, and Hyde Park's got Speaker's Corner where they come together to talk every Sunday, and they've been doing it for years. I don't know how long, but it's probably about 70 years or something. So every Sunday, people, whoever they are, they come together. They simply stand on a platform and they give their opinions about whatever it is they want to talk about. And it could be partly political issues within the UK. It could be religious issues, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Rastafaris, Hinduism. It could be political issues, and obviously very current right now, the issues of Palestine and Lebanon and Israel, and then the issues of the role of the USA in the US election. And here's the point that I want to make. In doing that, there's a police presence, but outside of that, these speakers who either stand on platforms or stand next to each other just arguing, they are allowed to argue, and they do so in the most amazing way. I mean, they really argue, okay? But here's the point. They argue, but they don't fight. They really argue, and hundreds of people, even not thousands, come there every Sunday to watch. You could have 20 different speakers, and you sort of move like a flea market from one speaker to the other, depending on who's very interesting. And here's the point that I thought, in many ways, it is an incredible level of a mature democracy in terms of Speaker's Corner. I'm not talking about the UK government, right? That has happened and continues for a long, long time. And I just wonder whether there's space for that in South Africa. Can you just imagine a Speaker's Corner at a famous park every Sunday morning or afternoon, and every one of us gets together, and 20 different people from different political persuasions in the country and continental and global issues, they get up on the soapbox and they raise their issues, and we agree and we disagree, and they argue and they moan, and they insult each other, and they all shake hands and we all say, thank you for your point. Well, that's my point. I wonder what's your point on that, whether you have a point, whether we should have a Speaker's Corner in South Africa. I tell you what, it's very relevant in terms of maybe a Speaker's Corner for South Africa's political parties with regards to the latest spat now between the ANC, their Secretary General Fikile Mbalula, and the Gauteng chairperson Panyaza Lesufi. Now, that resulted in a silent demonstration outside Luthuli House yesterday, in the midst of the ANC's 100 days of government of national unity. So as Mbalula called for the national anthem to be played, a handful of party supporters hoisted placards saying, "Don't kill Chris Hani again," and "We are Panyaza Lesufi. Panyaza Lesufi is us." So let's understand, what actually is going on between two critical party leaders, and if they had time to be on the Speaker's Corner, perhaps they'll get up there next to each other. But let's understand it, and perhaps very importantly, where does the ANC go from here? With me is Prof. Nkululeko Breakfast, Director of the Centre for Security, Peace and Conflict Resolution. As always, Prof. Breakfast, appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. What do you make of this? Is it just a playground spat or something far more serious than that?
No, I think there's more to it than meets the eye. I think this conflict that has broken out basically signifies a discussion about the direction of the ANC. It's about the direction that the party should take. So you have two factions, and the first one is the one that is running with this conception of the GNU that is foregrounded it. And then the other faction is the one that is advancing a counter-narrative that this is a sellout project. The ANC is betraying its core values of the National Democratic Revolution. And I think both parties that you've mentioned, which is Fikile Mbalula and Panyaza Lesufi, they don't only speak on behalf of the ANC, but they speak on behalf of their own constituencies within the ANC. And I think whoever wins this debate, I think will be the one that will stand a chance of be at the helm of the party, because Mbalula, in some sections of the party, is not seen to be only defending the party, but is seen to be positioning himself as someone who might take over from Ramaphosa. Because when Ramaphosa, leaders come and go. When he walks out of the ANC, I think the debate is going to be who amongst the ANC can take over from him. And because Mbalula has shown himself to be defending his agenda of the GNU, might be seen as that relevant person. So I think the rationale behind the letter that he sent by someone in Panyaza, he was building, in my view, he was building a case, for a disciplinary charge that might be instituted against Panyaza if he does the same thing again.
Okay, but here's the thing. Do you then see, is this a case of simply two senior members of the ANC having a difference of opinion regarding a key issue, which is the GNU, in terms of how it is, expressed in its manifestation or iteration? Or do you see it a case of two people who have set themselves up differently because of jockeying for political position down the line?
I don't think that it's a personality issue. I think it's more than that. I think the discourse on the GNU is a proxy war. I think the real thing that they are fighting over is about the soul of the ANC. It's about the direction that the party is taking. So, Panyaza, I think, and others, they think that the ANC is deviating from its core values of ensuring that there's a second transition as informed by the National Democratic Revolution. On the other hand, you have people like Mbalula, even the president in his speech acknowledged that the electoral outcomes were a strategic setback, and therefore the GNU is not a strategy, meaning that the GNU is not a destination but a tactic that the ANC is preparing itself to bounce back to power. And that it is using the GNU as a platform to showcase to its constituency that it can make right of its wrongs.
Okay, but now this is what we have. What does this then say about the future of the ANC? I'm suggesting that if two, party leaders, maybe jockeying for position, but also disagreeing fundamentally on certain issues around the GNU, I'm suggesting that outside the ANC having a spat with the DA, for example, clearly the ANC itself is a house divided.
No, of course. And the house that is divided against itself cannot stand, if I can use the words of Abraham Lincoln. It's quite clear that the leaders of the ANC are pulling in different directions. And of course, in the mix, you also have the Communist Party. Of course, it's not a subsidiary of the ANC, but it's an important component structure of the tripartite alliance. So I get the sense that those that are part of the working class or that stand for the aspirations of the working class, they think that this GNU, it's a class project of capital. And that the ANC is moving away from that constituency, which is the working class.
So yesterday, when the supporters of Panyaza Lesufi came up and said, don't kill Chris Hani again, and we are Panyaza Lesufi, and Panyaza Lesufi is us, what was the reaction from the people in that audience? And very importantly, what has been the reaction from, senior ANC leaders about this?
Yeah, I think that statement about Chris Hani is very symbolic, as Chris Hani, of course, he was the commander-in-chief of Umkhonto weSizwe. But besides that, he was the Secretary General of the Communist Party. So it's the discourse that, the agenda of the working class must not be done away with in pursuit of an application of market fundamentalism or marketization. So the group that is led by Panyaza and the SACP, I think their main contention is that the ANC, by joining forces with the DA, it is gravitating towards business-friendly policies as opposed to worker-friendly policies. And it doesn't see the ANC as pursuing the second transition, whereby the motive forces will stand a chance of benefiting from the democratic gains.
Okay, but I mean, if I quote President Ramaphosa correctly, I mean, he's right in the sense that the only reason they have a GNU is because they didn't get the majority vote. I mean, that's the reality. I think the Secretary General said something similar. That's the card that the country has dealt them to play with. So that's it for now, right? I'm just asking, maybe this is the last thing I'll leave you with, in terms of how, what does the ANC do moving forward? I'm just suggesting that when you have two senior leaders like this that appear now to be differing publicly, but then you have one senior leader in terms of who's the premier of Gauteng province that appears, and I say appears in inverted commas, that it appears that his policy is opposite that of the national policy of the African National Congress. Clearly that can't continue for much longer.
No, of course, but I think the defiance is also informed by the fact that the debate regarding the GNU was not exhausted within the party, that it was a decision made on top and brought down to the rank and file, that the branches of the ANC never gave a buy-in to this idea. No wonder he's speaking against this constitution. But I don't think that the tension is going to de-escalate simply because people are being told to abide by democratic centralism. I think the unhappiness is really increasingly becoming worse within the ruling party.
Okay, what needs to happen next?
Well, I mean, so long as people who are discontent about this partnership between the ANC and the DA are suppressed, I think the conflict is going to escalate. I get the sense that this thing was not discussed thoroughly within the party, and that is blowing up to the face of the party. So, I mean, the party will have to clarify its position regarding the GNU next year at the NGC, and then see how it maneuvers, because the more these tensions are playing themselves out in public, the more the party loses its ground in terms of keeping in touch with its constituency.
Okay, you're saying next year. I was suggesting next week. I don't think they've got a good few months to wait. I seriously don't think they've got that much time. Not with the type of splintering of opinions that has an impact on the overall party morale going then into that annual conference at the beginning of the year as well. Anyway, let's leave it at that. Prof. Ntsikelelo Breakfast, Director of the Center for Security, Peace and Conflict Resolution. Thank you for your time. You as the public, this is the National Pulse. You have an opinion. What do you make of some of the big issues we've covered, including what I've just had, the conversation of the ANC's Fikile Mbalula versus the ANC's Panyaza Lesufi? Does that make any sense to you? This is the National Pulse.
After an impressive run in their first 5 matches of the 2024-25 season, collecting 18 points each, both La Rochelle and Bordeaux-Bègles are pumped up with high energy and eagerness to elevate their winning mentality to the highest level. Witness the collision of two giants, the top 14 rugby contest between La Rochelle and Union Bordeaux-Bègles on Sunday, 20 October at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
Congo-Brazzaville wants to ensure that AFCON bronze medalist South Africa gets nothing during their visit to Brazzaville. However, Southern Africans Bafana Bafana want to represent the region well by collecting maximum points. This is the Total Energies AFCON 2025 qualifier. Experience the exciting journey to Morocco, Congo-Brazzaville versus South Africa on Tuesday, 15 October at 6 p.m. live on SABC3 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, I will take your calls shortly and your WhatsApp voice notes and text as well. And by the way, you can also post on our social media pages on Facebook as well as on the X or Twitter platform. Use the hashtag The National Pulse and also tell me where you're listening from. Always great to get that, right? That comes up just now. In the meantime, let's talk about the SIU, the Special Investigating Unit. Well, they claim they've saved the South African government, which is you and I then, 8 billion rands in the 2023-24 financial year. And these results stem from effective investigation, speedy litigation, and recovery processes. This all sounds very, very good news. Let's get more from the SIU's spokesperson, Kaiser Kganyago. Kaiser, good chatting to you. You're live on the National Pulse.
Hey, good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. I mean, 8 billion rand seems rather, well, it is a substantial amount of money, isn't it?
No, it is a lot of money that would have gone away from the coffers of government if we had not intervened. And that, for us, is really one of the best recoveries that in a financial year.
Okay. Tell us more about the type of interventions that were made and therefore practically how then was that money saved?
Yeah, when we do investigations, one of the key issues that we do is to recover the money. And therefore, in different investigations like the Transnet, like the Eskom, like NSPAS, we would then come to a conclusion that money was not used correctly, and then we go and then recover that money. And to that effect, we have recovered the biggest money in the bank of 2.28 billion. And then we've also prevented, because in some instances, we come in before the money is paid, and we prevent that loss of that money to the value of 2.32 billion. And then we have also entered into acknowledgement of debt and admission of liability to the value of about 1.6 billion, together with contracts that were successfully set aside to the value of 2.13 billion. This is where this 8 billion comes from.
Okay, so some of it is actual cash, others would be potential expenditure further down the line if contracts were upheld, right? Yeah?
Yes, and then the other instances, there will be people who say, I don't have the money now, but I agree to pay, and we made them sign so that they can pay back that money.
Okay. I mean, I sort of mentioned it at the intro, but perhaps you can just repeat it from your side in terms of there were 2-3 things that you did around effective investigating, litigation, and other processes. But tell me more about that.
Yes, we did the 3 ones that we highlighted were the Transnet, Eskom, and the NSPAS. Those are the 3 investigations where most of this money came from. And with the NSPAS, you would remember that there were universities who kept the money that they did not use and they did not also allocate to students. We then are able to recover all of that money. And as far as Eskom, it was more the issues in relation to MDP and many other power stations that we're dealing with. And in as far as Transnet, Eskom also, remember there was that 1.6 billion that we got back from a German company that had overstated the amounts in the Kusile power station. So those are the 3 main ones where I think Transnet, the amount recovered there was about 710 million, and then Eskom about 500 million, and then NSPAS 191 million.
What's the big lesson to learn from this?
What we need to learn from this is the fact that we need to have a whole society working with us, because this is the money that belongs to the people of South Africa. This is the money that is needed for services in this country. Therefore, we need the whole of society to say no to corruption, like we see in countries like Hong Kong, in towns like Hong Kong, where we are able to, people are working together, the whole of society, to say, let's stop the rot and let us report where we see things going wrong, so that at the end of it all, the people of South Africa will have the services that they need to have.
I mean, interesting. This comes at a time when there's always been public perception that our investigative units, particularly when it comes to white collar and blue collar crime, is rather poor, and things just drag on. And when it comes to high profile people or high profile businesses, in fact, nothing happens. I mean, this is a good example of actual action that's taken place, and when we can see the results, right?
Well, definitely. And then to us, we investigate. We always say that we don't investigate people, we investigate processes. But when we find you in the process, we don't care who you are. We have dealt with anybody that was found in these processes. People were removed from being MECs because of the investigations that we were doing. And therefore, we will do that without fear or favor. And therefore, we want to say to the people of South Africa, we are given a mandate as a SIU to go and recover this money. And that's what we will do, because the law is on our side. The law says we must do this. And we want all other law enforcement agencies and all other institutions that are given responsibility to do what they are supposed to do, and we'll have a better South Africa.
I would think, to borrow a very South African phrase, you'd have even more of the gears now to do even more, right?
No, definitely. Because we were looking at a 4-year scan of how much we had recovered. From 2020 to now, the total of the recovery that we have made is about 42.9 billion rand. Therefore, it gives us more energy to go and do more, because if we can, in 4 years, bring back 42.9 billion, we can do more.
Okay, that's where we're going to leave it. We can do more. Well, let's hope that you do more. Kaiser Kganyago, the spokesperson for the SIU, and that special investigating unit now claiming that they've saved the South African government, you and I, approximately 8 billion rands in different forms because of effective investigations, speedy litigation and recovery processes in the period ending in 2023-2024. That should certainly get you saying, hey, that's fantastic, isn't it? Let's talk about some of the other big issues, including, let me find this here. We touched on this issue of the Springboks earlier, remember?
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf is the tracker here in Mpumalanga. Mr. Ashraf, the Springboks are not for sale, finish and clear. I don't care what Saru and those gentlemen there, they are trying to sign on. 1.3 billion, let them go and invest it in Eskom. Obviously, they would want returns. Let them go and try it at Eskom and Dineo and the post office. Let them leave the Springboks alone. Finish and clear. Danko!
Okay, finish and clear from the truck driver, right? We spoke a lot about... let's just pick up on this on Bantu Alemisa's conversation, right?
The government of national unity has made the general very soft. I think he's enjoying himself. I don't remember listening to the general being this friendly when conducting interviews. I don't remember. Only under GNU. Allah. Thanks, Ashraf.
Well, there you are. You're making me laugh now because, somebody said the same thing about the DEA regarding the Phala Phala report and their outcomes. It's like, there seems to be a softness. Well, maybe that's what it's called, the government of national unity. They're all chommies sitting together. When you're chommies and you're not enemies, then clearly you respond very, very differently. I'm not saying that's the case. I certainly hear others say that. 4:30, here's the news headlines with Madupi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garda, and good afternoon. In your headlines, the ANC has confirmed that former Finance Minister and Reserve Bank Governor Tito Mboweni will be buried on Saturday. The Automotive Business Council, NAMSA, says business sentiment in South Africa's auto industry has improved greatly since the GNU's formation. And EFF leader Julius Malema has likened the late Pastor Ray Macaulay to Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And those are your headlines. Greg will have your full update, 5 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg has a crash reported before Crown Interchange. The N3 southbound in Bedfordview has a crash near Van Buren Road. The N1 northbound in Midrand is slow moving towards Samrand Road, and Eskom Patleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Mood Street. In KZN, the N2 southbound has a stationary vehicle reported after the M41 gateway exit. The N2 southbound in Amanzimtoti has a crash reported on 20 Hill. The R102 northbound in Phoenix has a stationary truck reported at JG Champion Drive. Victoria Embankment eastbound is closed at Samora Michelle Street due to a building fire in the area causing heavy delays, and the R34 John Ross Highway in Mpangeni has truck congestion reported in the Alton area, so expect delays. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound has ramp closure with no access to Lower Church Street. The N1 outbound has a stationary vehicle before the N1 Kuburg interchange, and Main Road outbound in Observatory slow moving towards the N2 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Okay, I suppose, are we talking, well, we spoke football. We are going to talk. We've got a big game just now.
Yeah.
6 o'clock.
Yes, it's at 6 o'clock.
Right.
Bafana against Congo, and they are away to Congo Brazzaville. So it'll be interesting to see how they're going to perform that side. But from one national team to the other, Banyana midfielder Talia Smith says that their priority is to win their opening match in the 2024 COSAFA Women's Championship to help set the tone for the rest of the tournament. Banyana team will face neighbours Namibia when the Continental Showpiece resumes in Gqeberha next Tuesday, and Smith believes that it won't be an easy encounter.
For us now, the most important game would be the first game, because we know in tournament football, winning your first game is the most important part. Not saying that the other games are not important, but that would be our priority focus now, is winning the first game, and then after the first game, taking it game by game. So we're playing against a neighboring country in Namibia. It's not going to be an easy one, since it's going to be both of our first games of the tournament. And I think South Africa previously in 2022 was the most recent previous game where South Africa won 1-0. So that shows to the scoreline, shows to the type of opponent Namibia is, and trust that it's not a game that is going to be taken lightly by us or by them. So it's trust to be an exciting game, and we're definitely ready to welcome all the teams in the country. It's a record breaking COSAFA Women Championships of 14 teams, and I think it's in exciting times as well.
Meanwhile, still staying with football, the Libyan Football Federation says that Nigeria were to blame for the postponement of today's scheduled Africa Cup of Nations qualifier in Benghazi after the visitors refused to play the match, citing mistreatment on arrival in the country. Nigerian players and officials were kept in a locked airport for over 16 hours, almost 250 kilometers away from the intended destination, after their charter flight was redirected while on approach to Benghazi and instead landed in Baida. They said that they had access to no food or water or contact from Libyan officials during the episode and decided to fly back to Nigeria yesterday rather than fulfill the fixture. Now, the LFF had said that the incident was not deliberate and urged Nigeria to be understanding, adding that their players had also faced travel difficulties last week. Meanwhile, Arsenal's women's head coach Jonas Edeval resigned after 3 years at the club following back-to-back defeats by Bayern Munich and Chelsea. Assistant coach Rini Sledgers will take charge of the team on an interim basis. Then in netball, Spar Proteas assistant coach Zanele Mdodana says that the ongoing National Coaches Workshop will help develop upcoming coaches at grassroots level. The National Coaches Workshop, powered by Netball South Africa, has been hosted in various parts of South Africa, having resumed in Gqeberha, then moved to Cape Town and now in Gauteng.
So these coaches workshops were actually Jenny van Dijk's idea, for us to be able to go around the country and become accessible as national coaches and share what our coaching plan is for the next at least 4 years. And also to share insight on what we are doing currently with the Proteas and what we want to have the coaches at a grassroots level basically to focus on key things that we want our players to be empowered with, a certain way of playing the game, and because we're trying to come up with a South African way of playing netball, because many other countries have their own identity.
Then in boxing, newly crowned WBO junior bantamweight world champion Phumelela Khafu says that he's happy to have finally realized his dream of being a world champion and being mentioned amongst the greats to have done it in the country. Khafu became a world champion after beating Japanese boxer Kosei Tanaka by a split decision in Tokyo yesterday, and Khafu dropped Tanaka in the 5th round, and this counted hugely in his favor as 2 judges gave him the fight. Well, that's it from my side for now.
So in terms of tonight's game, I mean, of course, 1-5-0, it's a league format, right? But away games are away games.
Away games are away games, and they tend to say when you're playing anywhere in Africa, it's quite hostile over there. So,
as we're discovering now between Nigeria and Libya, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we heard earlier on, Ronald Williams saying that they're ready for the pressure. They just want that job to be done. They just need a 1-0 win. That's it.
1-0, 2-1. Well, he would say 1-0. He's a goalkeeper. Okay, got that. But 3 points is really what we need,
Yeah.
Bafana. It's great to be part of a winning team, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Catch the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2. With only 5 contestants left in the competition, the heat is on. This week, they must prepare a family feast with the help of a sous chef who also happens to be their parent. It's a big challenge, but the reward is even bigger. That's the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7. Repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Zebras have a mission to impress the citizens of Botswana by outshining Cape Verde, but the Blue Sharks believe they can swim in any circumstances. This is the Total Energies AFCON 2025 qualifier. Experience the incredible journey to Morocco, Botswana versus Cape Verde on Tuesday, 15 October at 6 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Let's get to the numbers now with Makwe Masilela, the Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. So we can talk about local and global markets as well as the Bytes interims. Makwe, go ahead. It's all yours.
Afternoon to you, listeners. Remember, Bytes is one of UK's leading software security, cloud and AI services specialists, and a strong increase in operating profit driven by continued demand for their broad range of services. And despite the challenging economic climate and political uncertainty, the guys increased their share of wallet amongst their existing customers as they continue to invest in their IT needs, and they also expanded their client base in both public and corporate sector. Gross invoiced income up 13%, but revenue down 3%, but profits as and earnings per share up nicely 19%, with interim dividends per share up 14.8%. And Ashraf, despite the market being at elevated levels, investors remain anxious against the backdrop of a closely contested U.S. presidential election in 3 weeks and also an escalating geopolitical risk in the Middle East. Investors are getting so bullish that it might be time to sell global stocks, according to an investor survey by Bank of America. And the biggest winners from China's stimulus are emerging market stocks and commodities, while the biggest losers are government bonds and Japanese equities. That's according to the survey. And today is a day of big U.S. bank earnings, and investors are watching to see lower interest rates. Solid bank earnings help stocks to continue to hover near all-time highs. And when it comes to oil prices, they tumbled almost 5%, and that was due to a weaker demand outlook, and also after media reports suggesting that Israel will not strike against Israel's oil fields. That is the fears of supply disruptions. Unfortunately, Sasol fell 5%. Remember, Iran accounts for almost 4% of the global oil output, and is sitting now Brent crude at $73 a barrel. And gold traders are caught up between profit-taking and prospects for further interest rate cuts, and gold is up 0.3% in 2055. Global markets are mixed, with the JSE down 0.3%, but recouped some of the earlier losses, and we've been helped by our financials. And the rand fell almost 0.5% against the US dollar, is now 17.63, 23.03 against the pound, and 19.18 against the euro.
Okay, thanks for that update. We will certainly comment. We'll have more from you tomorrow, but another update from the markets coming up just under, I think, about 50 minutes or so from now. Thanks for that, Mark Webb. Let's now move on to WhatsApp. There's lots of WhatsApp voice notes we have and text. In fact, let me get to that. One of the issues we spoke about very, very early on in the show was the issue of foreign nationals with regard to an oversight coming up with regard to the Department of Home Affairs. Here's one.
I'm actually an immigrant from Zimbabwe. The first thing to mention is this idea that Zimbabwe is empty is nonsense. And that is probably one of the most ridiculous phrases I've heard on any radio station since I was born. The second thing is a lot of South Africans are actually complicit in illegal immigration. I was at the VFS Passport Visa Submission Center in Durban, and you literally see one after the other of South African women attached to a foreign national, and they're all applying for spousal visas facilitated by these South African women. It's actually sad to see, and I suspect these ladies are being taken advantage of or being paid money, but they're fully aware of what they're doing and the implications in terms of the law. And these are South Africans who wear their flag proudly, who are actually facilitating this.
Well, I mean, two things to come out of that about the Zimbabwe being empty. I mean, I take what you're saying. I think that's not meant literally, but I hear what you're saying. As far as South Africans being party to the illegal entry of foreign nationals versus the legal entry, I mean, I think you're right. It's not like we don't know that. You're absolutely spot on. So I don't think we need to say more than that. It is just the way it is, and there's many examples of people being complicit.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, this thing of foreigners, it's not only overworking the police and the health system. Medication gets less, the police are overworked. And secondly, in government mortuaries, there are thousands of unidentified people filling up the government mortuaries. In the end, they had to get proper funeral. But people want to come in South Africa without any document. How will you know where they come from? Thank you, Sipo from Soweto.
Thank you for that, Sipo. I think, let's be clear. Nobody anywhere in the world can go to another country without a relevant document, whether you are going to be a resident of that country, whether you're going to be on a student visa, whether you're working there, whether you're on a holiday, like I have been in 3 different cities in the last 3 weeks or so. If you don't have the documentation, you're not going to be allowed in, no matter what. Janus in Cape Town, hi. Janus, do I have you there? Yeah.
Yes. It's a pity I couldn't talk to the Mr. Bantu, General Bantu, but maybe you can introduce this to him next time. I did a proposal for him to create in army the engineering division, like we had in my country, where the soldiers were trained. First of all, they had like a 2-3 months of normal soldiering, discipline and every motivation, and then this engineering division was created. So the soldiers were used to build the roads, build the railways, and the housing and everything. So I think it could be good structure if we have something like such a division in our country.
Okay, got that. So maybe an engineering division within military. Let's see how that works. We probably could do the same thing in our country. Thanks for that, Janus. Bonakele in Cape Town, hello.
Yes, in Cape Town, to be precise.
Right, go ahead. What's your point?
My point is to follow up what we were just talking about, discussing, debating in corners, not here in South Africa, my friend. People are very angry. You can listen to them on radio when we're having topics here, on all those different radio stations. And people have this country.
You're making me laugh now. I think you're right. I'd love to see a speaker's corner in South Africa. I just don't know. I think most of the arguments will be of the political parties themselves, but it would be great fun, believe me.
But that's what Yusuf, the Premier of Gauteng, he must really calm down. He talk what is the ANC is talking about. Not to be talking with this SACP. So if it is the chommy with that Secretary General of SACP, he must record to the disciplinary hearing of the ANC. We mustn't talk something different from them.
Well, let's see. In fact, there's a DA claim around corruption by the ANC, and we'll talk about that after 5 o'clock. So listen out for that conversation. Thanks for that call, Bonakele. Let's get to Churchill in the Eastern Cape. Wants to talk about border management. Hi, Churchill.
Afternoon, my brother.
Good afternoon. Go ahead, Churchill. Yeah.
Yes, I was listening to the lady that was talking about our poor border management.
Yeah.
And I really want to say this is something that needs to be attended urgently. Because, I don't know if our constitution could be changed, but I don't know how, because the time the ANC had 2/3 majority, they slept on their laurels. But unfortunately, this is a problem, that's going to spill over our face. By the time we realize, we will be having a huge problem in this country.
Well, we have a problem. I mean, we have a problem of massive unemployment. We do have, I'm certainly for foreign nationals in our country. Let me put it on the record, because I think the diversity is what makes a country great. But there is a difference between foreign nationals and undocumented foreign nationals, and it appears that we have that, and we have that because there's no control, and that's been rampant, and that is a problem. I mean, there's no way you can defend that. It's a problem.
It's a problem. And one other thing that we need to realize, and I want to go back, I want to go back to our constitution. South Africa is a developing country. We don't have enough resources, So that's the problem that we're going to have. Look at what has happened in Lusikisiki. This guy who's being accused of this horrendous crime is not going to go out on bail. He has decided not to take bail. But at the end of the day, if he gets convicted, still is going to be sustained by us as taxpayers. How many people have been killed there? We really need to revisit our constitution. I don't know how, but something ought to be done.
Okay, got that. And I think the country maybe nodding their head in approval with you, because this is the National Pulse. Thanks for that call, Churchill. And there are further thoughts, and here's another one. Let me just get my mouse sorted out. Right, here's another.
Hi, Ashraf and the SFM listener. Ashraf, on that space of the hostels, is some hectares, the government can provide a lot of, houses for the people who looking for the houses in there. But you see, they just live in those hostels, and then a hostel is a very dangerous place, whereby even the municipal people, even the ESCOM itself, they are afraid of going there and, disconnecting this illegal connection and so on and so on. The municipality, they don't even have a bill for the water there. And then they're using the water, a lot of car washes, whatever they're doing, it's just for free in there. And then once you ask those municipal people, they say that's a dangerous place. So why should, if it's a dangerous place, the municipality must provide them with something, because you cannot provide the dangerous thing. You perpetuating it.
Well, hostels themselves are a relic of apartheid South Africa, and you wonder to what degree, why do they still exist in the way they do? I mean, just think about that, okay? We're going to chat about another important issue coming up in a minute or so. Here's another around some of the sports issues we touched on.
Ashraf Lubio Chengele here from Cape Town. I don't mind even if they sell the 20% stake, because sometimes we don't see Springbok playing here in South Africa because the rights have been sold to DSTV. So it's the same thing.
No, I don't think it's the same thing, but I also do hear what you're saying, which is that the way it works a lot makes a difference in terms of television rights. And flip it around, without television rights, the rugby unions would be dead. They really would be dead. You need that. So if you want to call that sold or sold the rights just to broadcast, they're two different things. But without television coverage and paid for television coverage in some form or the other, right, whether it's, multi-choice or even the SABC, the unions would die. It's that important.
Fizzy drinks and fruit juices are making our kids sick. Sugar is dumped into their bodies with every sip, leading to obesity, heart disease, and diabetes as they get older. We need to protect our kids from all sugary drinks. Demand a stronger health promotion levy now. Sign the petition on heala.org. That's HEALA.org.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the tooth fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does every electrical company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul.
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampo on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply. Health experts say that taking care of your baby starts the day you learn you have conceived. Changes should start immediately, from what you eat to how you take care of yourself. After you've delivered your baby, does the worry stop? No, it doesn't. From there, it's clinic visits, breastfeeding, introducing solids, and the list goes on. If you're a mom, father, or caregiver and are curious on how to support your kids' development to reach their full potential, or even concerned about the nutrition that strengthens their bodies, then our new SABC Education feature, Side by Side, is for you. Get all the advice you need from the Department of Health by tuning in every Wednesday and Thursday at 2:30 p.m. on The Full Circle on SAFM, starting in October. Tune into the feature and you could win 1,000 Rand with our monthly competition. Side by Side, brought to you by SABC Education on SAFM, leading the conversation. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
So, still to come, in the light of the conversations we've been having, we'll get another take on the issues of home affairs as per the original conversation we had regarding the Action SA representative. We'll also chat to Solly Msimanga, the DA Gauteng leader. He is very clear about the position regarding corruption cover-ups within the Gauteng, ANC-led Gauteng region. So we'll talk about that, things to consider, right? Further comments you have 086-000-2032. But let's talk about this in the advertising and marketing space here. There's the launch of the first content creator charter. So what does that really mean? The Interactive Advertising Bureau of South Africa launching this South African Content Creative Charter. Let's find out more about what that means with the lead of the Interactive Advertising Bureau of South Africa's Influencer Marketing Council, Pierre Kasuto. Pierre, appreciate your time. You're connected to the National Pulse.
Ashraf, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Tell me, what does this mean? I mean, I think we know what creatives are. People who, who are creative by nature would be in advertising and marketing and digital things. But a creative charter?
Well, that definition of a creative is changing, right? And I guess that's why we felt the need for this charter. And the influencer marketing industry in South Africa is growing really, really fast. It's estimated that brands and agencies spend between R500 million to R1 billion a year on influencer marketing now, and growing at about a 20% CAGR every year. And what defines this industry is that definition of a creative used to be somebody that works at an ad agency, somebody who works with a radio station, but now it can be pretty much anyone with a social media account. And so the goal of this charter was to establish a baseline, to establish a code of conduct that's available, that is respectful of the different legislations in South Africa around disclosure and transparency. That's an easy consumer language so that people can understand what is expected of creators, what creators can understand what is expected of brands, and they can have a pact. They can have an agreement that is simple to understand and that protects the interests of consumers around what does it mean to be a responsible advertiser or a responsible creator.
Okay, so I mean, up to now, when we talk about creatives, to make the point, we would sort of default to the Loeries and think about Joe Public, who's won the Ad Agency of the Year. That would be the traditional example of, solid creatives. You're saying if I've just tweeted now, as I have, effectively I'm a creative.
You're a creative, especially if a brand would approach you and say, hey, listen, we really like the audience that you have and the kind of opinions you normally share. Would you be willing to review our products for a fee? And this is something that happens more and more in our landscape. It's called, influencer marketing. And it encompasses everyone from big celebrities who are now brand ambassadors to experts to just regular consumers who may be approached by a brand and say, we'd love for you to create a post that you then post on your timeline to tell your friends about how great an experience you had with us, and we'll remunerate you for that.
Okay. So you're saying that this charter is very specific around influencer marketing. Is that correct?
That's correct. And it's guidelines that are meant to create, as I mentioned, a baseline to both energize, but also set a standard so that people who are not professionals, people who are not necessarily within the confines of an agency, know how to deal with marketers, and that marketers agree to a certain standard of professionalism of how to deal with them as well. So that might include, for example, equipping them with information about their product so that they can respond to queries and don't share false information. It might be things like making sure that there's a contract in place. And for the creator or the influencer, it might be things like disclosing the nature of the relationship with their followers. Simple example, if you receive a product for free, or if the marketer paid for your travels, that you disclose that to your followers so that they understand what is the relationship and what remuneration or compensation you receive for your opinion.
Okay, so in terms of the what you just mentioned, in terms of this charter, it's been put out already, so it's been adopted, right?
It's available on the IAB website. We launched it officially at the DSTV Content Creator Awards that took place Saturday. We have a few agencies already that are on board and a few brands that are on board. That includes DSTV, Ogilvy, Dentsu, quite a few big name kind of brands and agencies. And we're encouraging both creators and brands and agencies to go to the website, look at the charter, publicly pledge to it, so that they can be both listed as a responsible advertiser, but more importantly, train their partners and start implementing it in their processes.
And I do take it that nobody's forced, nobody's obliged to, right?
Nobody is obliged. What is really interesting about the advertising industry is that it's a self-regulating industry, right? There's a body called the ARB, which essentially is a membership body, just like the IAB, where we put out best practices, but also monitor members to make sure that they are following guidelines and that there's nothing that they do that goes against the interest of the public. And so it's important for the goodwill of the industry that there's as many people as possible that sign and follow that charter so that it doesn't become more regulated than it is already.
Do I take it that this was sparked off because of the fact that by its very nature, influencer marketing in South Africa was so unregulated that there were effectively no rules as long as two parties agreed with each other to do something?
No, there were rules. The ARB put out rules that were aligned to the Consumer Protection Act and to the general kind of advertising guidelines in South Africa a few years ago. But the reality of those rules is they were drafted in legal language that made the circumstances of when they should be applied and how they should be applied not very clear for people that are not industry professionals. And by its very nature, we are speaking here to people who are not industry professionals. So the charter was around trying to make it simpler to understand and more practical to adopt.
What has been the response so far?
The response has been great. As I mentioned, we've had quite a few brands jump on board. We've had quite a few agencies jump on board as well. And now the last piece of the puzzle is, getting the creators as well to come on board and adopt the charter as well. We believe from a Sorry, go ahead.
I would think many creatives would say, please just don't call me an influencer, even though I do the work of an influencer. You know that it's a dirty word for many people.
It's very taboo for many words, right? But for some reason, once you receive the money and the paycheck, it doesn't seem as dirty anymore, right?
Well, there you are. Let's leave it at that. Let me tell you that if you can just tweet out the links to the website link for that charter, so we can certainly share it out. Certainly be very happy to share it, and certainly consider signing up as well. Who knows?
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
There we are. That's very interesting. Pierre Kasuto, leader of the Interactive Advertising Bureau South Africa. This relates to the Influencer Marketing Council, and they put together now a content creator charter. So if you are a content creator, if you are an influencer, you get paid to post certain things on social media as part of a trade agreement with someone. Well, there's a charter that governs the relationship between you and the brand. Now, that's a good thing, isn't it? Let's get the news now. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg House.
The ANC's confirmed that former Finance Minister and Reserve Bank Governor Tito Mboweni will be buried on Saturday. Funeral service will be held in Sasakane outside Tzaneen. Funeral service will be followed by burial in Habeskloof. The ANC's secretary.
We are here to pass our condolences to the Mboweni family. The funeral will be on Saturday. It has been declared, I think, a state funeral, I don't know which category, in Tzaneen, in Limpopo. We are discussing with the family our plans as the ANC to have a memorial service to celebrate the life of Comrade Tito. We intend to do it maybe after the funeral so that we get the right speakers and also...
The EFF leader Julius Malema has likened the late Pastor Ray Macaulay to Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Malema made the comments during his visit to the Macaulay family and the Rema Bible Church in Randburg and Gauteng.
He was an elder of the nation. He was in the same footsteps as Tutu, who was there when it was not fashionable to be there. And when someone like that passes, such a powerful, towering figure of our nation, you have to put everything aside and go and show your respect.
Your Business Council, NAMSA, says business sentiment in South Africa's auto industry has improved greatly since the formation of the government. It contributes around 5% to South Africa's GDP. NAMSA President Billy Tom was speaking at SA Auto Week in Cape Town.
Yeah, I think since the formation of the government of national unity, the sentiments have changed very, very well. I mean, we've seen how the interest rates have now been lowered last month. We've seen how the inflation is right in the target range, but also the government of national unity, I mean, that has been well received. I mean, you've got 10 political parties working as one, and I think we're very optimistic as business. And also the collaboration we've had with government, it's bearing fruits. I mean, we've had 2 quarters of no load shedding, and I think we're doing a lot of work around the ports as well as around crime.
2 people have died and 6 others injured following a collision between a minibus taxi and a bus in Willis, east of Johannesburg. Emergency Services spokesperson William Ntlali.
And on arrival, we identified 2 lifeless bodies, which were medically checked by paramedics and unfortunately were declared dead on scene. And the other occupants, including the driver of the taxi, sustained serious injuries and were transported by various ambulances to a nearby medical facility in Vosloorus.
City officials in the Czech capital Prague have announced a ban on organised all-night pub crawls, making complaints about rowdy drinkers and unacceptable noise. The BBC's Richard Howells has more.
The historic and picturesque city of Prague has been a popular destination for stag weekenders and other revellers for many years, drawn by its reputation for excellent beers and cheap prices. But the thirst for hard-drinking visitors seems to have been quenched, and the city council is banning pub crawls between 10 p.m. and 6 in the morning. Prague's move mirrors some other European cities, such as Amsterdam, Venice and Barcelona, who've also introduced rules to manage mass tourism.
Top story, the ANC's confirmed that former Finance Minister and Reserve Bank Governor Tito Mboweni will be buried on Saturday. That's SAFM News. I'm Rick
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound is slow moving through Crown Interchange towards Boysons. Santon Drive westbound slow moving towards Winnie Mandela Drive. In Bedfordview, the N3 southbound has a crash reported near Van Buren Road, and the N12 R24 westbound queuing on both routes towards Kilulis Interchange. In KZN, the N2 southbound, an earlier stationary vehicle after the M41 gateway exit has been cleared. The N3 eastbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. The N3 southbound in Howick has a truck crash recovery underway near Nottingham Road interchange, and traffic is stacked. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend. The M3 inbound is queuing towards Hospital Bend. Komiki Road northbound slow moving at Masipumelele, and Victoria Road southbound queuing through Camps Bay. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
In sports this hour, Bafana ready for Congo pressure. Manchester United terminates Sir Alex Ferguson contract, and Yankees and Mapue set for boxing showdown. More details at 5:30.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So I made the point earlier on about my experiences at being at Speaker's Corner at Hyde Park in London. And of course, not the first time I've been there. I've been there many times. But once again, seeing just how certainly democracy in action, where they talk and they argue and they obviously argue about the most contentious issues in the world. And you know that, Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Iran, Ukraine, colonialism, the USA, Native Americans. All those things get discussed, right? And people argue with each other and nobody stops them. And the police are there, but they argue and they shake hands at the end of the day. And I just was wondering whether there's scope for a Speaker's Corner in South Africa, and what would it achieve? Would it achieve something? And I wonder what your thoughts are on that. Certainly help me with some answers. 086 000 2032. And you can text me or by WhatsApp text or voice note 0614 104 107. My name is Ashraf Garda. This is the National Pulse. We are going to talk to the leader of the DA in Gauteng, Solly Msimanga, shortly regarding their own issues regarding the position of the leadership of the ANC of Gauteng, with the ANC's leader Panyaza Lesufi. We'll talk about that in a few minutes' time. But let's talk about something that is an important development. The Judicial Services Commission has recommended the Supreme Court of Appeal Judge Nolwazi Mabindla Bokwana to be the next Judge President of the Western Cape High Court. Now, former judge of that court, Mabindla Bokwana, will take the reins of a troubled division as the impact of the fallout of the court's past and present leaders were laid bare in many of the interviews conducted on Monday. So let's try and understand what actually happened in that period and what is the significance of this appointment. We'll chat to Alison Tilley in a few minutes' time. In fact, what I'll do is before I get to that, let me just take some of your voice notes too. And again, many people are talking about the ANC versus the ANC and the GNU. It doesn't go away, does it?
A very good day to you, Ashrat. Ashrat, I don't know if the ANC is so fragmented and they expect people to follow them. They fight amongst themselves. Tripartite for the past 30 years, people are still poor, no jobs. I think they should give the GNU a chance to see what they can do, really. They are fragmented. ANC is done and dusted. This is Marvin in Bloemfontein.
Well, look, I think it's a reasonably sober question. If not the GNU, first of all, we only have a GNU because not a single the majority of South Africans who voted did not trust one party to be the majority party. That's the fact. That's the reality. Now, how we then come up with a composition of, putting together a 50% plus one is what we have now got emerged about as a GNU, or you want to call it a multi-party coalition. That's fine, right? But the question is now, and that GNU, there's an argument every day around it. But if not this current GNU, then what? Can you seriously see another formation taking place now? Because many are saying you must separate the political arguments with the service delivery impact. And there is a sense that the service delivery impact of the GNU in the last 100 days has been pretty impressive. And it's come, by the way, from most of the people outside the ANC space, as I can say that. Bantu Holomisa is currently in Ethiopia. That's interesting. We know we have the Minister of Sport who's been saying lots of different things. We've had a minister in terms of correctional services saying different things, Home Affairs, and perhaps none of those positions would have come through if we did not have a GNU. So here's the point again, and that's besides the issues of Scopa and Rising Mzansi and all that. Here's the point again. There are political differences clearly, and they continue. Whoever thought they were just going to be wallpapered would be dreaming. But do we have a sense at this point in time that it's certainly helping service delivery? Or am I being naive? And if I am, just you tell me about that, right? Further comments, let's hear it.
Hey, Ashraf. It's tough, man. You know, when we're growing up, our parents used to say you can't speak with food in your mouth. Hey, the general has got food in his mouth now. He can't speak. Hey, GNU.
Okay. The general has got food in his mouth. He can't speak. I better keep quiet. That's all I can say.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, the spat between Mbalula and Panyaza is actually caused by Mbalula's aspirations to ascend to the position of the presidency. And now he actually sees Panyaza as the only distraction that can actually stop him from realizing this dream. Thank you very much. It's Sandilin, KZN.
Are we seeing it? Are we seeing a leadership struggle within a party that actually has really disappointed in the last election and has disappointed in the last few years? Are we seeing that playing out even now?
Afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, I don't think it's proper for somebody to come from his own country or her own country where he or she cannot fix problems there. Come to South Africa, you insult the Minister of Home Affairs because you want to force the Minister of Home Affairs to give you a general work permit. It's inappropriate. It's not proper. It's not proper. I don't think it's proper, Ashraf. We must not insult the Minister of Home Affairs because we need the so-called work permit.
Okay.
From Brixton.
But here's a question. Who's insulted the Minister of Home Affairs? I'm not too sure who has done just that. But thanks for that call. Let's see if there's a couple of more voice notes or calls I can take. I'm just checking out with Keys whether we can do so. We should have been chatting to Alison Tiley. We're going to chat to her in a moment or so. Here's another.
Ashraf, good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to your team. Great show always. Welcome back. How was your trip? I think it was fine. You see, the late Tito Mboweni is a legend. So I'm just asking, to all these crew who were elected for GNU, who else can we recommend like the late legend Tito Mboweni? If I may ask, it's Uncle JJ. Truck driver.
All right, Uncle JJ. Well, there are lots of people commenting about Tito Mboweni. So what do you think about it? As far as my trip is concerned, it was really a good trip. Let me put it this way, for those who don't know. First part, Montreal, One Young World, attended the conference, moderated there, fabulous. Second part, visited my sister in Toronto. Third part, holiday in London. That's what it was. All very inspiring. But also, I must also tell you this, and this is important. I went away and experienced safety in those cities on an incredibly great level. It's fabulous, right? But at no stage, and I'm still very, very concerned about our high levels of crime in our country. You cannot take that away from us. It's bad news. But if anybody thinks by enjoying those cities, and I have, that I feel less about my commitment to my country, that's where you're wrong. I feel even more committed to say, come on, we've got to make a plan in this country. But as we talk about building, a champion nation and getting things to work out correctly, and like, what do we do about the safety issues? We must concede other countries are getting it right, and we don't appear to be getting this wrong right at all, and it's something that we have to address. Yeah, Lezo in Mtata, hi.
Ashraf, how's it?
I'm good indeed. Right, go ahead.
I'm okay. Look, Ashraf, before I make this comment, I must say that I'm a member of the ANC in good standing.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah, Ashraf, about the GNU. I think those who are strongly against the GNU are not being honest. Because what I simply say is that had the ANC went to bed with the MK, I don't think there would be any change in the way our government is doing things and in the way that we are seeing service delivery and accountability. So because the ANC and the MK are essentially the same people who have been in charge of government for the past 30 years. So I'm happy to see other small political parties who have been complaining on the sidelines now being given a chance to partake in government. Because remember, Ashraf, my ANC, we failed to win elections. then now we are including all parties who are willing to come and work with the ANC. So for me, honestly, I think the GNU has improved accountability and service delivery, because we've got now members of other parties who are not in government who want to come and show that this is what they've been talking about, this is what can be done in government.
All right. Well, I hear you. So you in many ways, you're right. You know, that there's been problems that have occurred in the past, which has been the ANC's doing, and you're the ANC man in good standing, and this is what we have. And those who are romantic about, like, you know, to hack with the GNU, have they worked out a solution to say what suggests that the leadership of the EFF and the MK party would do any better with the ANC together? I mean, how do we know that for sure? What does their track record tell us in terms of their ability to govern? Just not that I'm suggesting that the other parties are great, but I'm saying that I think you are spot on about that. So thank you for that call, Yalezo. Right, we should be chatting to the leader of the DA from Gauteng, in fact, coming up shortly.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the tooth fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does every electrical company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul?
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampo on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said,
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed Dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Baye!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
The reality is that 90% of South Africans don't save enough for retirement. This National Seniors Month, why not be part of the 10% who do? Choose an interest rate of up to 11.7% after 60 months with a Nedbank Electronic Optimum Plus account. Anyone 55 and over can open one on the Money app in less than 2 minutes. Go to nedbank.co.za for more info. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
And we've been talking so much about the national, government of national unity and some of the failings about the absence of a government of provincial unity, certainly in Gauteng, particularly with the two major partners, the African National Congress and the DA. Now, that just set that aside because that also plays out with a whole lot of other things. The DA had a media briefing today led by their DA Gauteng leader, Solly Msimanga, and he made the point again about allegations that the ANC-led provincial government is withholding reports related to corruption, of course, and that means the ANC led by the Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi. So let's find out more about what was actually said at that media briefing and the way forward with Solly Msimanga, the DA Gauteng leader. Appreciate your time. You are connected to the National Pulse.
Ashraf, good afternoon, and good afternoon to the listeners. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. I take it your pulse must be racing for you to have had a briefing about what seems to be an ongoing issue of corruption-related report cover-ups.
Yeah, we need to be making it very, very clear, Ashraf. We are not saying Panyaza Lesufi, at this point in time, we're not saying that he is corrupt, but we are saying that he is covering corruption. Because everywhere, he goes now, he's responding by saying that we are saying that he's corrupt. We are saying that if he's not corrupt, then he must release this report. These are reports that are coming, as early as 2016 and so on, that have been, forensic investigations that have taken place, but yet the reports are not coming out. You would remember, I'll give you a few examples. In during the COVID time, there was the Anglo-Ashanti 500 million that has been spent. Mm-hmm. At a hospital that not even a single patient was ever even used or taken to that particular facility. We can talk about the Tembisa hospital. We can talk about the Department of Social Development and also the NGO contracts, that were dubiously awarded to, a number of NGOs that all had similar directors, and these NGOs are very dubious. So and so on and so forth it goes. But what we have seen is that every time we ask for these reports, they are not forthcoming. And what we are now getting from whistleblowers is that, there is a very senior people that are implicated in this, and there are officials that are very powerful within the ANC structures that are also implicated in this. And that is why these things will otherwise, delay to come out or not even come out. Now the latest is that, some of the officials that, some of the reports that recommended that, action and prosecution taking place, and it had been put on suspension. All of a sudden, some of them are now back at work, and it's business as usual. And this is why we are asking, who are they trying to protect and what are they trying to hide?
All right. So in terms of these reports, just help us understand this. What are the nature of these reports? What I'm saying is, what is the legal standing of these reports? Is it an opinion, or is it actual legal standing forensic reports?
Well, these are forensic reports that are sanctioned by the premier in certain instances, or by senior administrators, the DG or senior administrators. These would include the usage of, very reputable companies, your Bowman, your the PricewaterhouseCoopers, among the others, that would have been used, to put all these reports together. They will go through a whole series of things that needs to be investigated on a particular issue. They will then make recommendations. So they will make recommendations to the premier. Now, what becomes very interesting is when a whistleblower says to us, there was a recommendation of criminal charges pressed against certain individuals because of the corruption that had taken place in that particular, contract, or the allocation of that particular contract. And therefore, the premier didn't like it. In fact, went as far as to say they must get another audit to be done, or another forensic report to be done that would get the kind of result that he would have wanted. Now, we find that very, very strange. That, these are things that not only are finding, expression in terms of getting the general public to know what they are and what they say, but also to a point where now there is, a doctoring of the same reports to make sure that, they don't say what the reports are supposed to be saying.
So you're saying two things if I understand you. One, you're saying that the reports are being withheld, they're not being given to you by the Gauteng Premier. That's the one thing. But you're also saying you now have got wind by whistleblowers that when the reports were originally seen and they implicated certain high-ranking officials, then the same Premier of Gauteng asked for those reports to be redone to mellow it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's what we're saying. That's what we are saying.
Okay. Now, what about the trust of your whistleblower that you refer to?
Well, the whistleblower, and it's not one, but it's a couple of whistleblowers that have been coming out, and we have been trying to build a dossier here, and this is why we are saying that this is not going to end here. We are actually going to be taking steps now going forward. What we wanted to do is to make sure that at least as a start, we can then get the reports to be. And the unedited reports to be, to be given to us so that we're able to then study them, because we are members of the legislature. So these things we're supposed to be playing an oversight over, and these are things that are, being kept from us. But, should that not be the case, Ashraf, we are now going to be taking further steps, as I would have said.
Now, I understand Panyaza Lesufi, the Gauteng Premier, has been quoted as saying that he has released the reports in December 2022, so he doesn't quite know what you are talking about.
Well, if he's released the report, let him call him and ask him, or anybody of the public, let him say when it was released, where it is, because if it's released, then it's public documentation. Then, therefore, it should actually then be online somewhere, or even in the archive somewhere. We haven't seen those. Certainly, I haven't seen those as the leader of the opposition.
So, has there been have you not seen any reports?
None of those. None of those. And you would remember, if he says he's released them in 2022, then the question is, why did he make a statement now during his State of the Province address that's recently passed? Now that when he said that he was going to release all the reports. So which reports is he going to release if he says he's already released those? So we are being told one thing and something else is happening here. And this is why whistleblowers are saying, but well, you guys need to then investigate a whole lot further here, because it sounds and it looks like there is cover-up that is busy taking place here.
All right. Now, clearly, we would certainly offer Panyaza Lesufi his own right of reply, and maybe we'll do that tomorrow, which is absolutely fine. But for now, I mean, outside of, formal media briefings and formal communiques, what then is your relationship with Panyaza Lesufi?
Well, we have a cordial relationship. We've enjoyed a very cordial relationship, besides the politics. And I think that, we will need to be matured, to keep politics aside and be able to then do what needs to be done. And then also be able to then have a cordial relationship. So we have reached out to them, if that's part of what you're asking. We've reached out to them to say, well, if you're still wanting to engage us and talk to us about the a government of provincial unity that includes all the parties, including the second biggest party in Gauteng, we are more than happy to do that. And we are waiting for them to really take us on that. And once that happens, then we should be able to then engage. If not, then we'll continue to do what we are doing from an opposition perspective.
I suppose what I am asking is whether you're in the same WhatsApp group.
No, we're not on the same WhatsApp group.
Okay.
We were at some point, but it looks like a whole lot of things would have been said and promised, and then something else would have happened, and therefore, you end up saying, well, when you're serious about engaging, and in all honesty, then we'll do that.
All right, so let's just confirm. Let's say Panyaza Lesufi, the Gauteng Premier, stands his ground saying, I've delivered reports in 2022, there's nothing more I need to say. What then is your next step?
Well, the thing is, he needs to then point to us as to where, and not only us, Ashraf. He must point to you, because then these are public documents. These are documents that you, as taxpayers, are supposed to then have access to, if indeed these have been made public. And also not them made public just for the sake of them being made public. What were the actions taken? Because these reports will come with recommendations, right? So what actions have been taken? Can he then take the residents of Gauteng into his confidence and really explain to everybody what would have happened? But let's take it a step further. We are now saying that we are putting in a PI application for all of them. We have exact numbers of these reports that we're asking, the case numbers of all of them, and what were the titles of those. We don't get those. We are going to take this dossier and all this. We are going to approach the presidency and ask for the SIU to then come in and look into this. We are also going to be taking this dossier. We're going to go to the Auditor General and say to the Auditor General, well, we understand that when you do an audit, there's a certain framework from which you work within. And therefore, we are asking that you look at these things, when you then do your audit, in terms of the compliance thereof. And then we are also going to be approaching the public protector, because it cannot be that you would have school kids who are supposed to be, getting school uniforms due to corruption and the contracts that were dubiously awarded or whatever. They didn't get those. There are people now where buses, there's bus grants that had actually been dubiously allocated to certain people. NGOs that are, benefiting without doing anything, while real NGOs are not getting the money. And this is why we are also going to be approaching the public protector to then say, these are the people that are the most vulnerable, that are suffering because of this. We're asking them to also look into the matter.
All right, and can we say, as we get on to news time, so quick answer here, that whatever's happened and continues to happen at provincial level, that you've got two important cities within the province, there are more, but certainly I'm talking about the city of Tshwane or Pretoria and then Johannesburg, and service delivery, if not is compromised, may well be compromised because of that.
Well, no. The delivery of services will always be compromised whenever there's corruption. But I don't think that we can say that there will be the holding of services on the basis that we are seeking to get answers on what is happening right now. If I understand your question correctly.
Yes, I do. Okay, let's leave it at that. Thank you so much for your time. We're certainly going to invite Panyaza Lesufi to respond as well, hopefully tomorrow as part of a right of reply. Solly Msimanga, the DA Gauteng leader, connecting here on the National Pulse.
Taking a look at the headlines of this half hour, the Basic Education Department says it's all set for this year's matric exams. 4 of the 48 learners admitted to hospital for suspected food poisoning in Hammanskraal, north of Pretoria, remain in hospital. And French companies are pouring investments into South Africa. That's according to the country's ambassador to SA. I'll have a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound queuing through Crown Interchange towards Boysons. Oxford Road northbound in Ilovo has a crash reported near Rudd Road. Santon Drive westbound is slow moving towards Winnie Mandela Drive, and the N1 northbound in Midrand slow moving towards Samrand Road. In KZN, the N2 southbound in Amanzimtoti has a crash reported before the Moskolnik Drive exit. Chris Hani Road westbound queuing at the N2 highway. The R102 northbound in Phoenix has a stationary truck reported at JG Champion Drive, and the R34 John Ross Highway in Mpangeni has truck congestion reported in the Alton area, so expect delays. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound slow moving towards the R300 highway. The M3 southbound is queuing towards Rhodes Drive. The M5 northbound slow moving through the N1 Kuburg interchange. Strand Road eastbound in Bellville queuing towards the R300 highway, and Erica Drive in Belhar has a crash reported at Symphony Way. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
28 minutes to Bafana playing, if they're not stuck at the airport. I'm just saying.
Okay. I'm sure we would have known if they were stuck at the airport. However, yes, it's almost time for that Bafana game. Bafana versus Congo Brazzaville, and they are in Congo playing this one. And Bafana captain Ronald Williams says that they're ready to handle that pressure that comes with playing away from home. And just looking at the starting lineup, we've got Williams in the goal post, Mudiba, Dodley, Kekana, and Mudau at the back. Then Obers and Mokoena paired together in the middle, and then we have Apollos and Zwane and Mukwana, and also Reyners coming in. Remember that Lyle Foster is not going to make this one after he injured his knee, so Reyners is replacing him in the starting lineup. Kickoff is at 6 p.m. and a win will guarantee SA's qualification for the tournament next year. And according to head coach Isaac Ngata, he sent a warning to Bafana ahead of this game, saying that, listen, he is looking forward to making sure that the Red Devils give their best today, and he's talking about making some changes.
Oui, hier, effectivement, j'étais dans un état d'esprit très positif par rapport à l'équipe. Vous avez raison.
Yes, yesterday I was sure from what we prepared to produce in the ground, I was sure that our players were going to play very well. But I'm surprised today to see on the field that they changed the state of the mind. So that doesn't mean that in the second leg match things cannot change. We will prepare for that physically and mentally. We are going to change our players. I think that they can do good games at home. Yes, we know that South Africa is better than us in many points, but we know that we knew that South Africa is a big team. We know that, but what we produce today is what we're expecting to do. But we're hoping that next week we are going to change all the mentalities and physically, and we are going to change the players.
Well, the Libyan Football Federation says that Nigeria were to blame for the postponement of today's scheduled Africa Cup of Nations qualifier in Benghazi after the visitors refused to play the match, citing mistreatment on arrival in the country. Nigerian players and officials were kept in a locked airport for over 16 hours, almost 250 kilometers away from their intended destination, after their charter flight was redirected while on approach to Benghazi. They said that they had no access to food, water, or contact with the Libyan officials during the episode. And according to the Libyan officials, they feel that it was not deliberate and urged Nigeria to be understanding, adding that their players had also faced travel difficulties last week. Elsewhere, Manchester United part owners Ineos have ended a multi-million-pound ambassadorial contract with Sir Alex Ferguson. The 82-year-old stepped down after 26 years at the helm in 2013, but penned signed an agreement which saw him become a global ambassador for the club soon afterwards. It's emerged that the agreement, said to be worth around £2 million a year, that was in place since October 2013, has been terminated, and Ferguson was told in a face-to-face meeting with Sir Jim Ratcliffe that the club were trying to reduce costs and they were no longer in position to continue paying him beyond this season. For me, I feel like this is a sin.
Why is it a sin?
Because Sir Alex Ferguson is like the god of Manchester United. So now you're like, listen.
You're now mixing up metaphors. He's the god of Man United, and they call the Red Devils. Can you just imagine how confusing that is, right? But listen, you know what the big sin is? They should have given him a 1-year contract extension to say, can you coach the team, man?
You know, that's exactly where we need him. But moving on to cricket, South Africa might have only suffered one defeat at the T20 Women's World Cup, but could still be sent home if West Indies beat England by a specific margin today. They've won 3 of their 4 group stage matches, with their only defeat coming in on a narrow loss to England. Now, their victories against West Indies, Scotland and Bangladesh all came without any hiccups too. They sit in second place in Group B with 6 points, tied with table toppers England, and West Indies are just behind South Africa on 4 points. England and West Indies have played 1 match each. However, they are playing today in what is essentially a quarter-final clash, with the winner guaranteed spot in the semi-finals. And earlier on, West Indies won the toss and they elected to bowl first. England are currently sitting on 129 for 6 in 19 overs. So really crossing our fingers for them, because if the West Indies win today, then South Africa will have to rely on their net run rate. Moving on to rugby, SA Rugby's proposed deal with the American investment group Arkley Sports Group looks set to collapse, with 7 of SARU's 14-member unions reportedly having signed a letter opposing the deal. Now, for a deal like this to go ahead, 75% of the unions must vote in favor, which means that 10 unions must support it, and the deal would have seen SARU sell a 20% stake in its commercial arm to ASG and get a cash injection of 1.3 billion rand. With that said, it is a wrap from my side for now. However, I will be back again from 7 till 8 p.m. on Top Sport, standing in for Michael Abramson, who's actually commentating on this Bafana Bafana game.
And you'll give us an update on the results naturally, but you're also having a conversation about that Springbok story.
Yes, we're definitely going to try to dig deeper. I think around 7:30 we'll dig deeper with regards to this, and then we're going to be talking all things Bafana Bafana, and hopefully it will just be celebrations that we have qualified for the Africa Cup of Nations with 2 games to go.
Well, I won't even answer that. That's it.
South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, let's certainly get to the markets, as always, hosted by Jimmy Moyaha. Jimmy, good chatting to you. Let's start with moving markets first up.
Good evening, Ashraf. Good evening to our listeners. Yes, we're going to be taking a look at a couple of things on today's show. We're going to be looking at Eskom's municipal debt that they can't seem to get under control. If you remember, that was one of the conditions that National Treasury had put forward around ensuring that they recover those debts. It seems as though less than 20% of municipalities that owe Eskom have actually honoured those agreements. I tried to get Eskom to speak to us on that. They haven't, so we've got an independent energy analyst around that. We're going to see how that that's going to affect things. Remember that 254 odd billion rand bailout that the government had given Eskom is conditional on a couple of things. I wonder if this is going to impact that. Then we've got a conversation taking a look at the automotive industry. There's an automotive industry transformation fund that was established, and obviously the automotive industry being such a key contributor towards GDP and the manufacturing sector in South Africa, this fund obviously has a lot of benefits towards what it aims to achieve. It looks like this fund is aimed at transformation within the sector, and we're going to speak to the CEO of the Automotive Industry Transformation Fund and try and understand the initiatives that they're putting forward. They're looking for new automotive entrepreneurs for them to be able to finance and assist in growing their businesses. And then we've got a conversation with the team at Westbrook around the fact that South African investors are seemingly looking towards UK private debt, so private debt that's sitting in the United Kingdom for opportunities and for returns. And I want to look at this because we know that grey listing has an impact on how asset managers invest offshore, and I thought this would be quite interesting if investors want to be in offshore products but might not be able to access them. And then because it's Tuesday, we've got Property Tuesday this week. We're going to be taking a look at Redefine's latest funding model. They've reworked their funding model. It's 27.7 odd billion rand involved in restructuring their financing and how they finance deals, and it's going to be an interesting thing to take a look at as part of our Property Tuesday feature. But before we get to that, the markets have had a weird day. It seems like most of them were in the red, very few were in the green. The Nikkei in Tokyo was in the green. It is back trading from that holiday that was there yesterday. The ASX in Sydney was also in the green, but mainland China and Hong Kong markets all in the red. European markets, mixed bag, mostly in the red. The FTSE and the CAC in the red. South African markets, terrible day, 0.5% in the red on the All Share and the top 40. Resources down 1%, industrials down 1.2%, financials up 0.8 odd percent. So interesting to reflect on that. But before we get to that, the rand has been moving as well. 17.61 is what $1 will cost you. 1 British pound is currently at 23 rand and 5 cents. We're back above that 23 rand level. €1 19 rand and 20. 1 Australian dollar 11 rand and 82 cents. The price of Brent crude still sitting at around $73 a barrel, so that's good for hopefully what we might see as petrol price cuts in the new month. The gold price $2,663 an ounce. The platinum price just under $1,000, $998 an ounce. Palladium $1,021 an ounce. That seems to be gaining a bit of traction there. The price of a Bitcoin still sitting at $65,510 a coin. That's roughly 1.15 million rand.
Okay, and shall we end with your masterclass? You spoke about a different sort of will yesterday. Let's talk about a digital will.
Yeah, so yesterday we looked at a living will and we kind of looked at the parameters around that. Now, a digital will, interestingly enough, is a completely separate will that you can have in place in addition to your other wills. Now, this specifically governs how your digital affairs are to be managed after your death. So this could include everything from your online bank account to online subscriptions to your photos and your saved documents, your social media profiles, your entire digital footprint. If you're in chat rooms, how your profile is dealt with in those chat rooms. And what's interesting here is you can actually appoint an executor towards your estate, but you can appoint a separate online executor that specifically deals with your online affairs. Very interesting times.
Okay, I don't know if anybody's got that already, but that is very, very interesting indeed. Perfect. Thank you. We will chat tomorrow.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said...
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed Dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Baye!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
Bayern München are not just about singing their club anthem, Star of the South. They want to maintain their unbeaten run while their visitors, VfB Stuttgart, plan to live up to their slogan, fearless and loyal. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch the nail-biting clash between Bayern München and VfB Stuttgart this Saturday, 19 October at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the tooth fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does everyone at your company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul.
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampo on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
Night Talk with Oliver Dixon.
When leaders need to account, we call on them. When society needs to debate, reflect, and advance, we're here to have the conversation. Join me, Oliver Dixon, on Night Talk every Monday to Thursday from 10 to 12 midnight.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, let's get some of your thoughts and your calls on some of the big issues that we've had today, issues that have sort of driven the National Pulse. We'll be chatting, by the way, to Gresham Tapiwe Niaude, who's a Zimbabwean artist, coming up as part of our feature we call Winning, but that comes up just now. For now, no surprises, what some of the big issues are for the day.
Ashraf Yalezo Yeni Mtata. I think, Ashraf, all those who are saying the GNU is not something which is right in the current situation, they are not being honest. Because we know that had the ANC went in bed with the MK to run this country, there would not be any change in this country. What has been happening in the past administration will simply continue, because both the MK and the ANC are essentially the same people who have been in government. So for me, I was happy to see other political parties, when my ANC has not won, taking positions up in government, so that we can see all what they've been talking about, if they can come and make a change in government. Thanks, Ashraf.
Okay, there we are. I think many may say, well, that's a sober point of view, that others who concur against those romantic ideas to say, well, an ANC, EFF, MK thing would just be great. It'll solve all the problems. Not forgetting that they actually come from the same root, isn't it?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Well, this GNU basically is just a club of losers who basically lost the election and banded together to form something called the Government of National Unity. I mean, we can see as it unfolds that they are not united in anything. It's squabble after squabble. Now, to compound matters, we've got a president of the ANC who's come to the end of his term, and we can see the power plays now happening on that front. So I think we will sit and make popcorn and watch this movie unfold. Here in Durban.
Watch and have popcorn. So if they're a bunch of losers, then who are the winners? Just think about that.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. How are you, Mafuta? Ashraf, I didn't wait to listen to the general when you speak to him, but can you ask him, you had been just talking to somebody who is from a war zone in Sudan. Ashraf, what is the Council of Ministers of the AU doing in terms of the conflict in Sudan and in all conflicts in Africa? Why can't they develop some teeth to bite and to give sanctions and action to quell wars on the African continent? Ashraf.
Well, he did say the issue of Sudan is top of the agenda, together with the coups in West Africa and the fact that the military is running a few countries in that region, and that can't be allowed. They're looking into all of those things. But to be fair, and this is me saying it, that the AU's teeth are as, what's the right word, as rotten, like falling off teeth that can't bite in the same way like the United Nations, because if it was any different, well, we'd have a different world right now, don't you think? Here's another.
Hi, Ashraf. This is Duma from Joburg. I want to comment about the ANC and the GNU. the way I see it, if the ANC does well, if the GNU does well, so the ANC will never be in power still, because it does well because of the GNU. If the GNU don't do well, still it's bad for the ANC because it's part of the GNU. So that means ANC will never, ever change from what it is now. It will always have below 50%, the way I said. Have a good day.
Well, I must say, to a large degree, I concur with you. It's one of the things I've said before, that when the GNU was formed, I said, watch the opposition parties or the smaller parties within the GNU. Watch how they're going to try and overperform to make sure that they show people that they can deliver. So when the GNU works and you look at which departments are working, as we can probably see now, then it's going to convince others to say, hold it, can you see where the real champions are, if I can call it that, which is not good for the ANC. And you're quite right, if the ANC doesn't perform or the GNU doesn't perform, it also spells bad news for the ANC. So I think the fundamental question we should all be asking going forward is the ANC as a leader in its own right, are those days over? The President, Ramaphosa, doesn't think so. He's like, hold it, this was strategic in the basis of the results we've got. This is not going to be the way we want it to be, but can they claw their way back in a few years' time? We shall see about that. Let's talk to a winner right after this.
Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Myths versus facts. I'm too young to get breast cancer. Many women under age 40 are diagnosed with breast cancer. Men can't get breast cancer. 1 in 922 men have a lifetime risk of breast cancer. I have never had children and can therefore not get breast cancer. Women who haven't had children or only had them after 30 have an increased risk of breast cancer. Breast Cancer Awareness Month on SAFM. X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, we always end the show with what we call winning, because we talk to people, organizations who are winning at what they do. That clearly is the case with Gresham Tapiwe Niaude, who's a Zimbabwean artist, and he's won big at the 2024 F&B Art Joburg Awards. So let's speak to him. Gresham, appreciate your time.
Oh, well, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Well, the pleasure is ours because you're the winner, not us.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me anyway.
Let's talk about what you won. Tell me about that, the latest prize.
Well, I mean, honestly, the feeling is unfair because you don't know. Like, I mean, it's an honor to be recognized by my own folks on the continent, being the F&B Art Prize winner in Africa. Like, I've done a lot of shows around the world, but to be recognized by my own people, man, it's crazy.
Yeah, it certainly means so much, right? Tell me, what did you do? I mean, what was submitted that so got the judges' attention?
Well, honestly, I don't know, because I just do my work every day. Because I'm a full-time artist as a painter. Like, I've been painting professionally for the last 14, 15 years. So, like, that's up to the judges to say, like, what really it's up to them. It's not up to me to say what really made them make that decision. But I'm committed to the subject.
Okay, you just take the prize and run, understandably so, right? Tell me what you did, however, in terms of share with us some of your artwork that you've done, because I know it addresses some very important issues around social justice and more, right?
Yeah, no, so, I mean, my work basically, like, I really like to speak about, I talk about, like, slang, like, the way we use slang in the ghetto, and how I convert that to how I convert that to paintings and everything and stuff. So my work is oriented based on language, and so language informs me, like, how everyone speaks, and I try just to paint what we speak every day, and I just put the stamp of time to what we do every day.
All right, tell me more. I mean, give me some examples then of the actual work.
Oh, wow. Okay, so in 2018, I did a work called Zino Irema. It's a Shona proverb, which translates to a tooth is a fool, it smiles to even who it doesn't like. So you were just talking about the social context whereby we like how we are capable to show, like growing up in Zimbabwe, there's a lot of like things like economic stress and stuff. But if you come to Zimbabwe, we are the most sort of like exciting people. We are the most like laughing people. You come to our country, we smile at everyone, we show a good face, but despite the economic hardships and everything.
Mm. And how did you get into becoming an artist? What was and the artwork that you've done? I mean, take me through your own story of how it started for you.
Well, so I think my father was an illustrator for a local magazine called The Parade back in the day. So I grew up like in a family where everyone was like a draftsmaster, where everyone can draw. So what happened now is like I only found out later when I was studying visual art that not everyone can. I didn't know that it was a talent, because everyone could draw in my family, like my sisters, my siblings, everyone could do it. And then when I was not aware that it was like something that you can pursue as a professional until I finished like my high school. Then then I found out like, wow, this a professional career, because in Zimbabwe we don't have like we have like schools, but we don't really have like good art schools that can make you like go to the level. Of course, we've got a degree level and stuff and everything, but you won't be able to stand on the world stage.
And when did you realize that, what, this is not just like I'm good in my home, this can be a career? Like, when was that moment?
I think it was back in 2007, because I've got is a recipient as well of the prize. It's called Wycliffe Ndopa. We went to high school together, and he was like, dude, you are insanely talented. Like, you should pursue art as your career. Because I think it was like, for me, it was very mundane. Like, it was just like walking to be able to draw or to be able to tell stories through your art. Then this guy, like, he had this idea where, like, no, you can actually take this professional and you can go to another level with that. So my father, I think he suffered the same problem whereby, because I think my father, if he went to a proper school, he would have been one of the most greatest artists in the world from Zimbabwe. But there's no infrastructure, there's nothing that would help him during that time. So I think it was in 2007 when we finished high school, when my bro told me that we should pursue art as a career.
Well, there you are. I mean, certainly an interesting story about your father as well, not just with yourself, right? Now that, it's not like the first time you've won, but now that you recognized once again, I always talk about the power of and the power of the influence that you have. How do you use this influence?
Well, I mean, I don't think I have influence, because when I do my work, the thing that I'm aware about most is like I just want to address, not that I just want to address, but when I do my work, I try to be authentic as much as I can with my work, and I try to talk about issues that concern me, that I see every day in my neighborhood and stuff, and not that I want to influence anything to anyone or whatever. But I try to speak the things that matters to me, and if it gives positive or negative influence to anyone, I mean, that's what how art works. But I just try to do this is really one thing that I know that I'm capable of doing and I'm good at.
Okay, let's leave it at that. You are good at what you do and you're a winner, and it's great to talk to you as a winner. Gresham Tapiwa Neodi, the Zimbabwean artist, winner of the 2024 FNB Art Joburg Prize, and we are thrilled to be talking to you. So for myself, with the rest of the team, Temba and Vusani, as well as Keys and then Phineas, all of us coming together, putting together the National Pulse. Appreciate your time. We'll do it again tomorrow. The National Pulse, 3 to 6. Right now, let's get the news. It's 6 o'clock with Greg Hose.
Thank you so much, Ashraf. In this news update, severe weather warning for Gauteng and a boost in French investments in SA. Good evening. Gauteng Traffic Police have called on motorists to be vigilant after the Weather Service issued a warning for possible severe thunderstorms. A 60% chance of rain is predicted for Gauteng this evening, with the possibility of localized flooding and hail. Johannesburg Emergency Services spokesperson Robert Malawutsi.
Residents are urged to exercise caution while driving.